All right, welcome in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. It is Monday, October the 7th, and all hell has broken loose in college football. 7 a.m., McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, 800-239-9569 if you'd like to get in. Greg McElroy was on the call for Auburn's loss at Georgia. I was on the call for Alabama's loss at Vanderbilt. We'll take you inside both of those, as well as some of the other upsets, great games, things that happen over a spectacular college football weekend. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. You can be a part of the show there. A lot of different ways that you can ride with us today, and there's going to be plenty to discuss, plenty to talk about. I'm in Charlotte getting ready for Read and React tonight. GMAC back in Birmingham, and wow is all I have to say. We knew there was a path for some of these to take place. We thought that there were some opportunities for certain teams to do some special things, Greg, but I'm not sure any of us really projected that this weekend would bring exactly what it did.
But we kind of did in the off season. We both talked about, hey, with a 12-team playoff, are we going to potentially see more upsets in the sport because of that subconscious security that you feel after a big win? And I think that there's a lot more parity in the sport now too, with the transfer portal and especially early in the season, you can potentially revitalize your roster. Now the transfer portal can work in the other direction too, where you see Florida State, who's really struggling right now, and they leaned heavily into the portal. So it can go both ways, but it's crazy, man. I mean, it's really, really crazy. And youth and inexperience and things like that all factor in. And this weekend was a pretty good example of it, because there were some teams that you wouldn't have thought would have been competitive in those games. And yet not only did they stay competitive for 4 quarters, in 4 different cases, they went on and outright won the game.
Yeah, and it was a weekend. We've seen others like it in college football history. It's just not many like it, and not many to the extent that we saw over the weekend. 5 top 11 teams lost in the AP poll on Saturday. Texas goes back to take the number 1 spot with the new poll that it will be out, so they'll hit the Red River Rivalries, the number 1 team in the nation. They are 3-0-1 in their previous 4 games against Oklahoma, in which they have been the number 1 team in the AP poll. Big Ten takes advantage of that, which sees Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State take 3 of the top 4 spots currently. I think with the way the season's going, we all would anticipate that is going to continue to take place, and we're going to continue to see more of it. Missouri, we haven't even mentioned, lost at Texas A&M. Didn't just lose, by the way, looked terrible and got blown out. One that we were on different sides of here, and I will fully admit did not see that one coming, specifically not the way that it was and the way that it went. First time 5 AP top 11 teams lost on the same day since November 12th of 2016. First time multiple AP top 5 SEC teams lost to unranked teams ever. Only time it's happened. Third time a conference had 3 top 10 teams lose on the same day since Saturday, October the 7th, 2006, from the SEC, in the Big Ten on September the 10th, 2005. It's just it was a day of reckoning for a lot of teams. There are a lot of warts on a lot of teams that were exposed, and a lot of things that certain teams are going to have to clean up, Greg. But let's start in Nashville. I know you went and tried to get this game in as soon as you could after your game was over. It was a game in which I was on SEC Nation Saturday morning, and Laura Rutledge asked me, just about this game potentially being competitive, and I kind of told her, I was like, listen, there is a path. I said there's a small way that Vanderbilt has a chance to be competitive, potentially pull the upset in this game. You've got to keep their best players off the field, which are on offense. They were able to do that maybe to the fullest extent. I said, and then Diego Pavia has to be Manziel-like, and maybe not so much from a numbers perspective, but from a playmaking perspective. And he was that when they needed big plays. And I think sometimes, Greg, people think big plays is like 90 yards, 80 yards, and a touchdown. But in a game like this, big plays are conversion plays. Big plays are keeping a play alive and not taking a negative play. And to me, that's what Diego Pavia did better than anything else. Was he avoided catastrophe plays, and then when there were had-to-have-it moments, he almost willed his team to those moments on multiple occasions.
And there were a lot of plays that needed to be made on throws, on critical down and distance, on third downs. Critical plays that need to be made on 4th and 1 when they decide to roll the dice. Sometimes, and you can point to a scenario where the defense screws up which leads to opportunities for the offense to take advantage. And honestly, guys, there weren't as many screw ups as I anticipated seeing when I put on the tape. There really weren't. There were a few, sure, but every team, even in victory or defeat, there were a couple screw ups. But this was really just winning one-on-ones, winning and making sure that they took advantage of those one-on-one contested catch situations. This was constantly getting outflanked because of the misdirection and the eye violations that are created by this offensive style. This was getting maybe a little nosy from time to time and them having the perfect play at the perfect time. And this was a buzzsaw in every sense of the word. And it was in large part due to the performance, not just of Diego Pavia running the offense, but the study. Clearly, it was an off-season study. This is a big moment for Vanderbilt football, and they had a great plan. And I'm talking a great plan offensively. And look, I experienced this as a player myself, like running into a buzzsaw against South Carolina where they could do no wrong. It happens sometimes. Less talented team than we had, but it didn't matter. I mean, sometimes you catch a team on the wrong day, and that's exactly what transpired. So you got to give immense amount of credit to not just the players, but the staff, because that team was ready to roll. They believed, and there wasn't a moment in which they didn't keep their foot on the gas pedal.
I would agree. And keeping your foot on the gas pedal there, one that I thought was huge for Vanderbilt. So many times teams, and once again, I don't think that means just chucking the ball 50 yards down the field, but it's just being aggressive with your play calls. And there were times when you felt like it was going to be a handoff, run some clock, probably punt, Pavia roll out, hits a pass, or you get that shovel pass again, which was I had not seen. I don't know how many times Vanderbilt has run the shovel this year before this game, but it ended up being a massive play for him. I don't think I had seen it coming in, and that was
they ended
up being a
times?
huge play for them. Well, yeah, and it was. I mean, there was one time he was in traffic, he made a nice little pitch, and then another time that Eli Stowers took it for a big gain. And that's I think the key to an upset is you have to have a plan and you have to stick to it. You have to, I believe, you have to have projected to your players. Unless you have somebody just go complete superhuman, which, listen, Pavia can be that kind of a guy, but physically he's not really that guy. He's not a Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson physical takeover guy. But as from a playmaking perspective, he can be someone that sort of takes over a game. And I think Clark Lee and company and Tim Beck specifically, they had a plan. Tim Beck, and I tried to say this on the broadcast because Tom kept asking me, he's like, what is wrong with Alabama's defense? Like, tell us what's wrong with Alabama's defense. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with it. I said, are they playing some things incorrectly? Are they coming up field a little bit too much? Are they overly aggressive? Are they over pursuing at times? Yes, a little bit. I said, but this is an offense that knows what they're doing. And I thought Tim Beck, Greg, did an excellent job on early downs of identifying how they were going to play him, and then he used that against them time and time and time again. And you see the little, I mean, it's an inside zone play, and they read it to the opposite side. So if the offensive line's blocking it to the left, they're in the pistol. He turns to his right, and the back comes the opposite side, and they're reading that backside end, and they want to see how you're playing them. And then if they were playing them slow, what would they do? They would motion 23 out, and then they run the jet power sweep, and then they'd fake the power sweep and run Pavia right up the middle, and then they would boot off of that. I mean, it was clinic play calling from Tim Beck as to, okay, you're going to play me different ways. I'm just going to take advantage of however you're playing me on this drive. And Kane Womack told me before the game, we have to mix up the edges. We have to. We cannot sit there and just crash the mesh. We cannot sit there and just slow play it. We cannot sit there and have a replacement defender over and come flat down the line of scrimmage. We got to mix and match. And they wanted to use some alley defenders on that. They wanted to bring some linebackers over the top on that. But it felt like Beck was a step ahead the entire game. And ultimately, where are Alabama's best players? They're on offense, right? I mean, no one's going to debate that.
I don't know. The two linebackers are good, but they were neutralized in this one.
Okay, well, Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams are Alabama's best players, and Tyler Booker. Those are. If I'm drafting for my team, those are three players I'm taking first, and those players couldn't get on the field. Bottom line, those are the guys that were going to beat you no matter what you did. If you played perfect defense, if you played aggressive defense, if you played sound defense, those three guys can beat you no matter what you do. and they were on the field for 17 minutes and 52 seconds, as opposed to your offense being on the field for 42 minutes and 8 seconds. And I know a lot of people hate time of possession. I just called a game with one, but that was a massive number in Vanderbilt being able to pull this upset.
I think the time of possession, I've never cared about it. It's never been in a million years. Has it been a situation where I have felt like the time of possession is an ultimate indicator, especially in the era of tempo offense and all this other stuff. Guys, I'm more and more of a believer that when you have teams that are momentum offenses, and most offenses are momentum, by the way, but the Georgias of the world, the Ole Misses of the world, the Tennessees of the world, the Alabamas of the world, when they get rolling, those offenses become incredibly difficult to stop. Guess what stops it? Time of possession, extending drives with their third down conversions. Like time of possession, I saw it firsthand in Kentucky Ole Miss at one point. Kentucky had a 3-1 time of possession advantage, and Ole Miss was on their heels the whole game as a result. Saw it against Tennessee and Arkansas this past weekend, at least early in the game. Now, I know Arkansas and Tennessee, that got a little closer. It was like 35-25 at the end, but it didn't feel that way, especially in the first half when Tennessee couldn't run the ball. We saw it in Bama Vandy. Like, time of possession has now become a factor that can help you win games, and especially, too, when we look and move forward to, say, 2025, and we're seeing teams playing their 15th, 16th, and 17th games this season in January, then I think time of possession is really going to matter, because I am of belief that there was some fatigue from Alabama because of the 55 defensive snaps played against Georgia in the second half. And I think because of the way drives were sustained early in that game, they were playing hard. They played their tail off. Bama played hard. This was not a hangover performance. They played hard. I can watch teams that are hungover. That was not that on Saturday. Now, I thought the linebackers were a step slow, but that's the offense. I mean, you can't get overly aggressive with this offense because they could be hand and fullback dive. They could be throwing a post, and it looks the exact same. Like, that's hard. I don't care what the circumstances are. That's difficult to play against. But the other thing I would say, too, though, is I think at the end of the game, they look gassed. I mean, completely gassed. And I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, time of possession killed them in this one, and it's going to continue to be a problem for teams that are momentum-based teams.
Couple things on that, and I'm interested to see if you and I agree on this a little bit later in the show that I'll bring up with just kind of how this game went. And you mentioned the time of possession, 17 minutes, 52 seconds for Alabama. The first play of the game, there is good movement at the point of attack by that offensive line. First play, right out of the gate. And I can remember, I told Tom right before we went on the air, I said, I want to see if this offense comes out and tries to set the tone early. Because I thought, and I'll be honest with you, Clark Lee told us that they were going to play Alabama similar to how they played Vanderbilt. They were at least going to start out that way. And that they were going to play back.
Play Missouri, you mean?
You
said
correct.
Vanderbilt.
Played Missouri.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That they wanted to stay back. They want to give up explosives. They would shove some safeties down in at different points in times to help a little bit, but they couldn't give up the backbreakers, and he knew that. So I looked at, and we walked to that meeting, and I said, so they got to run the football. They got to go north and south and make them pay for it. And wanted to see if they would do that. And I mean, first play right out of the gate, Brailsford's up on the linebacker. You get good movement from right tackle and right guard. Booker has a nice little block, and I think you gain like 6 yards, like right up the middle. And I was like, here we go. Like this is going to be it. Like, I mean, right out of the gate, may have had first down yardage. I don't remember where it ended up. You know how many times the rest of the game, Greg, Alabama ran the football in consecutive plays?
If you didn't tell me last night, then I wouldn't know. But go ahead.
I was asking for radio effect there. You're supposed to pretend like I didn't tell you last night, but that's all right. We're all lacking sleep here. It's okay.
That won't make the podcast. It's fine. No one will know.
4 times in the game, four times in the game, Alabama ran the ball on consecutive plays. 2 of those second runs went for touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying that it would have led to necessarily more touchdown runs and those two that were consecutive were in the red zone. But when you talk about setting the tone, when you talk about imposing your will, when you talk about doing things to other teams that they can't do really anything about, I feel like Alabama had an advantage there, and they didn't take advantage of it. It was the one thing I was truly disappointed with as far as plan strategy that I saw from Alabama. Because, like you said, I thought most of the guys gave really good effort. I didn't see a lot of loafs. I didn't see guys standing around. Now, were there some guys that had bad games? Yeah, right tackle didn't play well. I thought a couple guys in the back end of the defense could have played better. But I'm with you. Like Jihad Campbell, I thought played his rear end off. I thought Deontay Lawson played hard. There were a couple plays in the fourth quarter where I thought Deontay Lawson was going to be hurt, but it just took him a little longer to get off the ground because I think he was just gassed. And then too, like we just mentioned a moment ago, with some of this zone read stuff, especially the elongated zone read on jet sweeps and the kind of sprint out options that they would turn to on occasion, I mean, he's going from one hash to the other sideline on multiple occasions, back to back to back to back to back. But that was something that was just eye-opening to me because I thought Tim Beck did an amazing job of setting the tone with his offense. And his tone didn't need to be, we're pushing you 5 yards off the ball. His tone was, I want to know how your edge defenders and your linebackers are playing me, and I'm about to call everything else this series off that. And it was overly impressive the way that it was played out by him. And just one thing that I kind of wished Alabama would have tried to have done because I think they could have been successful with it. Just because you run the ball for 1 or 2 yards, in my opinion, doesn't mean you just turn to 4 wides and all of a sudden have to throw it around. As we head further into football season, you know what that means. Changes in the weather are coming. Protect your HVAC system with a checkup from a trained comfort specialist. So when cold weather hits you, you'll have peace of mind that you're protected by America's most reliable and trusted HVAC brand. Find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com. And remember, it's hard to stop a train. We'll get Greg's thoughts on that, what I just laid out, after Paul Feinbaum. He's with us next. Tyler Watts was on the radio call in Nashville. Got to catch up with him. He'll join us at 9 a.m., and we're going to be loaded with college football all day. Back with more right after this on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Monday, October 7th, 7:20 a.m. there in Birmingham, Alabama. He joins us each and every Monday. You can see him on the SEC Network. You see him on ESPN. You see him on SEC Nation Saturday mornings. And you can hear his show right here on WJOX 2 to 6 p.m. weekdays. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. It's Paul Feinbaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Feinbaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Feinbaum.
Paul, always great to have you in on a Monday morning. Today, not going to be a very difficult one. I've seen where am I correct in seeing that you've labeled this the worst loss in the history of Alabama football against Vanderbilt Saturday?
I said it was one of the worst losses. And what I meant by that, there have been more shocking teams that you've lost to in Alabama, but I'm talking about as a number one team. That happens so infrequently, Cole, and I can't really wrap my arms around too many like this. I've been to a couple of them over my career, and they were against teams like Mississippi State beating an unranked beating a Bear Bryant team in 1980, or even a couple of years ago when A&M did. But nothing to this degree, and like it or not, it all has to do with Vanderbilt. We all know what Vanderbilt has done under Clark Lee, but that's not how the nation views it. The nation still views Vanderbilt as a punching bag, as a piñata, as something that is tantamount to a middle school. And that's unfair, but it's also the reality, and that's why this particular game has sent shockwaves across not only college football, but I mean across the news dial. I've seen on literally every major news network and news show since Saturday. This has been a big topic of conversation because it's the biggest brand in college football, and it's also the one that's been the biggest laughingstock among major college teams.
Well, Paul, what do you think? Look, maybe there is something to first-year challenges. I remember vividly, losing as a redshirt freshman, watching from the sideline to Louisiana Monroe, and one that was tough to stomach, frankly, for us on the field. But it seems like maybe that happens more frequently in year one, regardless of who the talent is. I think Vandy's a lot better than Louisiana Monroe was back then, just to be honest with you. But looking at this and seeing how it could affect Kalen DeBoer and the perception of him moving forward, what do you think this means for him?
Well, I think it really means what happens next. He will. There is tremendous overreaction, and that's natural. But what people are going to focus on now isn't what happened a week ago and what happened Saturday. It's the last 6 quarters defensively, which has been atrocious. And he's capable. He's the same coach he was a week ago, beating Georgia. And it really, I don't think this game is going to matter that much in the new world order that we live in. It's simply a matter of making the math work to get to the playoffs. And if Alabama gets to the playoffs, this game will fade. It will be one of those asterisks that we talk about in past tense. I don't exactly know what happened last week. I talked to Kalen DeBoer on Wednesday, and he was trying to move on from the Georgia game. The problem was it was impossible to move on, Greg. Is that the reason they played so poorly? Is that the reason that it looked like Vanderbilt was the more physical team? I don't have any idea, but these guys on the team are just like everybody else. Everywhere they went, they were talking about Georgia. And, Vanderbilt's coming up. And I know they beat Virginia Tech, and they lost to Missouri in overtime. But we'll still have more fans, and it's still Vanderbilt. And that's hard to escape, even though we all admit that Clark Lee has done a really nice job of building this program back.
Feinbaum joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline with us every Monday. Thanks for Craneworks. And Paul, there are a lot of fans that are going to throw out a lot of reasons. We're already seeing them, hearing them, whether it's what the coaches are wearing, to doing interviews, to playing music at practice. What outside of some of the obvious things that we're going to discuss on our show here today do you think have maybe some truth to them as to why this loss took place for Alabama?
Well, first of all, Alabama just looked undisciplined, and I tell you what I think is also going to happen is just DeBoer's reaction to Malachi Moore. To me, that's not what fans wanted to hear. They wanted to hear something stern. That's when the DeBoer-Saban comparisons start coming. He gave a very passive response to something that I don't exactly. I mean, I've seen snippets of it. Everybody probably thinks they know more about it than what they really do, and that's just what happens. DeBoer has had the smoothest transition really I've ever seen from a coach, including Saban, because Saban took over a program that was in turmoil. DeBoer did not, and outside of a couple of days when Caleb Downs was leaving and a few other and Julian Sand, he's had the smoothest ride I've ever seen, and I think it just caught up to him. And everybody will have their own theories, and I'm not sure if any of the theories will be correct. What Kalen DeBoer does in Knoxville 12 days from now is going to ultimately be a lot more important than what happened Saturday in Nashville.
What do you make of just the challenges now kind of across the board? And look, Vandy deserves immense credit. But I just think the challenges of the schedule now, man, it's crazy looking at these things. And just look at the parity in the SEC, and it's become more real because it's not just Bama. I mean, Tennessee losing to Arkansas. Yeah. Arkansas, I think, looked inept at times against A&M. Maybe A&M's legit. Missouri looked awful. Like, I mean, it's sometimes I feel like these teams are just more inconsistent because it's tough to wrap your head around how Ole Miss looked a week ago, and then to look at how they played on the road this past weekend. I just feel like we're seeing a lot of high highs and a lot of low lows, and it's hard to wrap my head around. So is there a takeaway that you have on that?
I think it could be that there are so many distractions now. And you talk to players every week, Greg, and so do you, Cole. And they all say the same thing. The only game we know is the next game, but that's not the way players really are. I mean, they're all doing different things. I'm not blaming this on NIL. I'm just saying that you can't put football teams in a silo anymore because the players are all out with their own deals and marketing, and I think it's great. But it's also harder to rein them in, and it's harder to be as disciplined perhaps as the past. And the portal, I mean, look at Vanderbilt. They haven't had many quarterbacks like Diego, and he pops in, and he doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know or care about Alabama Vanderbilt. He's just a gunslinger.
Paul, let's kind of roll over to Athens, Georgia, where Auburn goes down over the weekend. We spoke last week, and there was a little bit of sentiment of, okay, this would be where we would see a good effort. It was Georgia. It's not a difficult game to get up for, to be excited about, a big opportunity game. How concerned are you now about what this Auburn football team may look the rest of the way based on not how they looked in Athens, but what happened in Athens?
Well, the fact that I heard one Auburn friend of mine said, "Hey, at least we covered the spread." It makes me think: was that Vanderbilt playing Georgia, or was that Auburn? That's the new Auburn right now, and that's what's sad. And I don't care what anyone thinks about the progress that Hugh Freeze is making and how close they are, and they're about to turn the corner, and all the things I hear from everybody who gets inside the weeds. It's October 7th, and Auburn has 4 losses, and that's simply unforgivable. And it's inexcusable, and that's knowing what we all know and knowing what this schedule looks like the rest of the way. So I didn't take a whole lot away from this game other than it could have been a lot worse, and that's really more on Georgia than it is Auburn.
What do you make of just kind of what's going on and Hugh Freeze's frustration with the players and critical moments in the game, big mistakes in the game? How does Hugh Freeze kind of right the ship?
Well, listen, he can be frustrated and he can blame players and he can throw players under the bus. He's a head coach. He's the one, making $8 or $9 million a year. And this is, and if that's, if this is too tough for Hugh Freeze, then maybe he ought to find another profession. But ultimately, I'm really tired of everybody getting the blame at Auburn, except the guy who's in charge of the program. It's not easy, but he's still 2 years in, and plenty of coaches have turned programs around in 2 years, especially with what's available. And he made a decision, and he is paying for it. And depending on how this season ends up, it will be an open question after Thanksgiving of how much longer Hugh Freeze will have to be paying for it, because the runway for him is getting more narrow by the hour.
Paul, great stuff. We always appreciate you stopping in on Monday mornings, and I'll see you in a few hours.
Thanks, Cole. Thanks.
Paul Feinbaum joins us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks on the Buyers Right hotline. That question you asked, Greg, how does Auburn right the ship, is one that I think we need to try and focus on throughout the course of the show today. I don't know exactly how much can be righted. I wasn't able to catch much of your broadcast, but I've had a lot of texts about your broadcast, and that you were complimentary about some of the things that the offense was doing, that you saw some bright spots in that Auburn offense over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we got 2.5 hours to talk about it. I still maintain the idea that Auburn's close. I mean, I hate that I feel like it's rinse and repeat. And I know they scored 13 points or whatever it was on Saturday, however many points they scored. But it feels like they're close. It does. I mean, it feels like they're a shoestring tackle away. And I'm not an excuse maker at all. Auburn has invented ways to lose in some cases. Really had no business losing to Arkansas, really had no business losing to Cal, and really had no business losing to Oklahoma. I mean, no business. And if you asked Kirby Smart, and we go into the meetings last week, and Kirby's like, we kind of view this team as an undefeated football team, which I know is kind of strange. I've never, not one time, Cole, and you meet with coaches every week. You got great relationships with coaches, so do I. I've never heard a coach describe another team as they're an undefeated football team in our eyes. They just happen to have 3 losses that were self-inflicted. So that's I think, a challenge. The thing that irritates me, though, is in the most critical moments of the game, in the most pivotal situations in the game, they are not on the same page. And I don't know how things work and what's allowed and what's not allowed and who's calling the plays and who's in complete control and all these other things. I think some of that is murky. But in the most critical moments of the game, your, quote, gotta have it situations, and they have screwed them up multiple times. And that can't happen. So they got to rep those more frequently. They got to make sure that those are the most dialed in moments. I can tell you this, and look, I know it's Auburn fans that we're talking to here, so I'll use a play that you probably remember. The play in 2009 where I threw it to Roy Upchurch in the front right corner of the end zone. You know how many times we repped that play? About 15 different times. And we ran it once that season, and we started it and installed it in fall camp. That was a, quote, gotta have it play that we repped all season long. And we used it in a gotta have it situation from inside the 5 in a super important environment. So if you get those amount of reps leading up, the critical moments in the game feel like practice. So I think that's something that probably needs to be assessed, because Cole, to screw up as badly as they have the first month of the season and change in the most critical down and distances in the game is something that I think is a little alarming at this point for sure.
I think most people would agree. Those are the spots that you're supposed to have things cleaned up, buttoned up, and not have any loose ends to those. And multiple moments like that have been disappointing for Auburn this season. So we'll continue talking about the Auburn Tigers. One thing that you may not also know how to do is make sure your yard is going to be green next spring. Now, we're heading into fall. Obviously, it will get cold at some point. Doesn't really feel like it yet. And then we're going to hit dormancy, and your yard is going to be having to deal with cold weather. You want to make sure it's going to be lush, green, weed-free, barefoot good next spring. Greg, you need to call our friends at Wayne's because they can make sure that happens.
Yeah, Wayne's will get you taken care of. They're outstanding. I've had a great experience dealing with them for quite some time, and the Envirolon technology is so great. My parents are here this weekend. We got a lot of family in town. They've all commented, man, on how great the yard looks. Well, that's because we've been treating them with the Envirolawn for a long, long time. So I appreciate Wayne's and the way they've helped us out. You can get helped out as well by going to callwaynes.com. Use the offer code JOX. That's JOX. You can sign up and get the first month free. That's JOX. Callwaynes.com or 866-WAYNES1. That's 866-WAYNES1. Use the offer code JOX for that first month free at callwaynes.com.
When we come back, I'm going to go back to what I left with on Alabama before we welcomed in Paul to the show. Get Greg's thoughts just on Alabama, the rushing attack, the offensive plan over the weekend. We'll discuss that right after this, and we'll begin to take your calls, 800-239-9569, your feedback from the weekend as well, next on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, 8:40 right here on Jocks 94.5. We'll begin to get to your feedback, your thoughts over the weekend, 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. Just your thoughts on how things went down, what took place, what needs to happen moving forward, your expectations for this scene the rest of the way. But I did want to tell you about my friends at Royal first. You can get tailgate ready at Royal Automotive. They want to help you experience how car buying should be. 4 Royal-owned dealerships in one location. Selection and savings are unmatched. Royal's the only place to find over 19 unique truck and SUV options in one spot. Now through Halloween, Get up to $14,000 off select 2024 GMC Sierra models. 0% for 60 months is back on 2024 Volkswagen Tiguan models. Or sign and drive select 2024, 2025 Volvo XC40, XC60, XC90 models with 0 down, 0 due at signing, and 0 for your first payment. Certain restrictions apply. Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia. Online, royalautomotive.net. Make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. And remember, for every ride, there's Royal. We left the Alabama conversation earlier in the show, Greg, with me sharing with you that, and actually had our stats guy during the game. It was a middle of fourth quarter, and I said, please, during a commercial, go back and tell me how many times they've run the ball consecutively. And at that point, it was 3. Late in the fourth, they would do it one more time. 4 consecutive runs in the game. I thought Alabama had an opportunity to sort of be that kind of a team in this game. And even when they were playing down, it's not like they didn't have enough clock to work with. That part of the offense, and then just your thoughts on this offense in general, what that performance was like against Vanderbilt on Saturday.
Well, I don't know about you. The offense to me felt okay. I felt like Jalen made a couple mistakes in the run game, but not anything that was absurd. There were a couple RPOs called. I think Clark did a good job of having some tweener looks that would kind of get you to maybe make the wrong decision. I thought Jalen was pretty accurate. And I also anticipated there maybe being a little bit less efficiency offensively. They just didn't have enough snaps. I think, 48 snaps or whatnot? I don't remember how many I watched yesterday. I watched so many dang games. But I think it was 48 offensive snaps thereabouts. And that's not very many, right? You're probably not going to be able to take advantage of your depth advantage when you are only snapping the ball 48 times against a defense that might not need to substitute as much if they're only playing that many snaps. I think that was a huge issue in the game. Is Vandy was able to keep their ones on the field most of the time because they never really got to the point where their rep count was getting out of control. I thought the offense played pretty well. I can't put a whole lot on that side of the ball. I think there were things to like. The pick six hurts, but that's kind of a bang play. I mean, 98 times out of 100, that play, tight coverage, tipped ball doesn't result in a pick six. You know, it's just one of those kind of unlucky ones. And of all the bounces that day, that was really the only one that Vandy seemingly got, one that seemingly bounced against Bama. So I thought all in all, the offensive performance was pretty good. I just think that there's still times when Jalen plays a little hero ball, and it'd probably be better to kind of distribute and maybe lean on some others and maybe take the keys away from time to time to just get into a little bit more momentum going and get other pieces involved from time to time as well.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people trying to make something of the picks. I mean, sometimes you got to give somebody credit for making a play.
Yeah, I mean
it's like it's not like Ryan Williams didn't come back to the football. The ball wasn't extremely late. You just made a play, and the ball happened to bounce your way. I mean, it's like sometimes that's the way it goes. And it's like you said, not gonna that play that way. Ball's 99 out of 100 times going to go down to the turf instead of pop up the way it did. So
pop up the way it did, and to the awaiting arms of the guy running at nearly full speed. I mean, it's just an unlucky play. I didn't think it was a bad decision. I didn't think it was a bad throw. I thought Jalen played pretty well. I fully expected when I went to the tape to expect, a couple turnovers. I didn't look at the box score. I didn't look at anything. I wanted no impact, no influence whatsoever on me when I watched that game. I didn't read an article. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted to watch the game with no outside noise. And I watched it, and I thought Jalen, if I'm just watching, for those of you that don't know how coaches tape works, like you watch the offense and you watch the defense. So I watch every offensive play. I thought the offense played pretty well. I mean, they scored 35 points in an SEC game on the road. That's pretty dang good. The problems are on defense, and those need to get ironed out quickly because there's a bunch of high-powered offenses that are coming up here in the future. And if you want to get back on track and chase a championship, it starts on the defense and the secondary and frankly, some of the play up front and some inconsistencies there. So I'm not worried about the offense.
Yeah, I'm with you on Jalen, and we had a lot of folks trying to make something of that interception, and I was like, I'm not going to go there and say that this is a bad play by anybody. Let me ask you this quickly, though, Greg, because I came later in the game, specifically after the Ryan Williams catch for touchdown, which was just, I mean, once again, to be running full speed and to be able to not stop, but slow down, jump, turn, catch ball, turn back towards the end zone on way down, and then be back at full speed on second stride. And how he didn't go out of bounds, mainly before the catch, I have no idea. Because from my vantage point, it didn't look like it was possible for him to not be out of bounds. After that catch, I started thinking to myself, I was like, is this an offense that is maybe over reliant on the big play? Like, do they have to have the big play to be successful? And because it just, I mean, go back to, the Georgia game and Jalen's run, or Ryan Williams down the field multiple times this year. Like, it's just Ryan Williams against Wisconsin, the corner out to Bernard against Wisconsin. Like, it feels like that they have leaned very heavily on explosive plays and big plays. And if they're not getting those, then maybe the offense doesn't move the way or operate the way that they want it to.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because it does feel like there's some there. Jalen's a big play guy. Like, he wants to make big plays. That's who he's been for 2 years. So that should really come as no surprise. But it didn't feel as herky-jerky. Like, last year felt like it was herky-jerky. The word I've used to describe it from time to time is clunky. When you're overly reliant on the big play, your offense can sometimes feel clunky because you're constantly looking for the big play downfield, and you're not just being methodical and making great decisions in the underneath, and you're not just taking what the defense gives you and just keeping the chains moving and putting together 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives. You're constantly looking, and you might miss on first and second down, and then you got 3rd and 10, you hit a 27-yarder. Then you miss on first, second down, or you take a sack, and now it's 3rd and 18, and you hit a bomb to Ryan Williams, and it's touchdown. Like, the offense doesn't feel good, but the performance is pretty good. I don't feel like that was the case this past weekend. It has been the case in times when Jalen's been the guy, but that didn't to me feel like a problem this past weekend.
Yeah. All right. So there are a couple of big plays over the weekend that we're going to have to discuss at some point in time. We're going to open up the phones next, 800-239-9569, because I know there are a couple of you on hold already that want to talk about these moments. Auburn on 4th down, specifically something that happened with Alabama players as the game clock was expiring. We'll get to a couple of those. We'll have a conversation about those when we come back, and we'll let you be a part of those conversations. You can tweet in at Mac and Cube, be a part of the show there. You can also text into the show, 205-834-9450, as we will take our top 3 segment today and let it be for feedback for you because of what happened over the weekend. But first, I want to tell you about Backyard Adventures. We were looking for a playground in our backyard for months, couldn't find anything. Finally stumbled across Backyard Adventures, thankfully. Met Jeff and the guys, went out to see what they had right there on Cahaba Valley Road. They've got them all put together so you can jump, climb, swing, slide on all the different options. They came and put it together at my house, everything, all of it. I didn't pick up a single hammer, or drill, zero. They put it all together. Later on, needed a basketball goal because I heard how much Greg liked his. They did that for me. Greg, they also did that for you, and I know it's been great for your family.
I absolutely love it. We've been using it like crazy. Actually, the boys have been using it now. It's starting to cool off a little bit in the afternoon. Boys have started to use it again. JG, my 3-year-old, got a basketball jersey, a Michael Jordan full outfit for his birthday this past weekend. So we had to play Michael Jordan and LeBron James in the driveway. We got the one-on-one that we always wanted to get, LeBron James against Michael Jordan. Maybe not quite as athletic in our front yard, but still fun nonetheless. So the basketball goal has been a great addition for our family and the time we spend together outside. So go and see them off Cahaba Valley Road, or you can go online and have it kind of check out all the stuff they have at backyardalabama.com.
All right, we'll be back with your feedback, your calls, your texts, your tweets on the weekend's games and some big moments in some of those games next on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Troy goes down to Texas State 38-17 of the weekend. Trojans now 1-5. Worst start since 2015. Jordan McLeod, 20 of 24, 252, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception for the Bobcats. I know Matt McLaren excited about that one. That moves Texas State to 2-13 all time against Troy. So a big win for Texas State. And Troy struggling out of the gate here early. All right, 800-239-9569. If you want to get in on the Buyers Right hotline, discuss some of the week's games, some of the things that happen, your thoughts on them. Also, you can text into the show, 205-834-9450. Damian, how's the text line looking right now?
It's going about as good as you think it possibly would be. David from Vestavia, he texted in. He says, very disappointed in all the chatter from Bama players. They were awfully mouthy to be getting pushed around the way they were on defense.
Yeah, pushed around is not how I would describe it. Out of position, maybe yes, but okay, that's fine.
Now this one's going to be pretty strong, and I don't necessarily think this is the majority, but we have somebody that texts in and says DeBoer isn't cut out for this. His biggest knocks were that he has never coached with a target on his back. He lost his first game ever as a head coach of a number 1 ranked team to one of the worst P5s in the country, and he doesn't have the connections to put together a competent staff. This speaks for itself when Womack is the only person he could find that was willing to take the job. DeBoer will tear this program down quickly, and hopefully Byrne will be, and Bama will have an AD that won't make a lazy hire. So
Got it.
Yeah.
Not on board with any of that.
Yeah,
All
right.
Sounds like we're taking it in stride here.
Yep. All right, let's go to the Buyers Right hotline. Josh in Springville. What's on your mind, Josh?
How you guys doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Yes, sir. War Eagle Cole and
War Eagle.
Greg. Greg, I've got a sophomore daughter at Alabama who's a 5MU, so I'm not going to say the words, but you get my job, right?
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.
All right. So my call, I wanted to touch on the 4th down play call in the Auburn, Georgia game. Greg, what would have happened to you as a starter had you not ran the play that was called?
I think
You want to talk about this on the other side?
This is going to take a
Okay.
little more than 30 seconds. So you're going to have to hang
fine.
in there.
Stay on the line if you want to get in. Buyers Right hotline still going to be open. Auburn's 4th and 1 execution. Greg was there on the call. He'll give you his thoughts on it. I'll give you my thoughts on it, and we'll take your calls on it. All next, right here. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Jocks 94.5, jocksfm.com. Tell your home smart speaker, enable the Jock skill. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Greg and I not in studio today, but the show will be there each and every day. Search Jocks 945. Let's go back to the Buyers Right hotline, 800-239-9569. Scare D Cat, who is too afraid to give his or her name, would like to join the show. Welcome in.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Great. How are you?
What's up, buddy?
Good. Hey, I just, and Greg, I know you played during this time back when Saban first started. I just think Alabama fans are, and Auburn fans, I guess Auburn fans just have this idea that we're supposed to be up there every year with all the other, the Georgias and the Alabamas. And so they get real quick when they start losing. Oh, we got to find a new coach. Bama fans, it's going to be okay. Like, Saban lost to Louisiana in a row, and look how that turned out. I think it's just they for 17 years, they didn't have to worry about games like this. And I think it's just, hey, it happens. I mean, college football's not the same anymore. Games like this happen. It's going to be okay. You got a long season ahead. I would imagine Bama fans in 07 had the same thought. Why did we go out and get this guy? He lost Louisiana in a row. That text a while ago, that's a little extreme. Just saying.
Well, here's the thing. You got a team coming off a bye week, and I remember our last year we lost 3 games. We played 7 teams that were coming off bye weeks, coming to the game playing us. Like, it's hard to play against a team coming off a bye week, and it's also very difficult to play against an offense that's that unique and that difficult to simulate and have all the different things that's going on and misdirection and movement and changing the launch point for the quarterback and aggressiveness down the field. And it's very easy to get caught off guard. I don't think that this is that's what's a little bit frustrating about this whole circumstance to me. I feel like there's more blame being had to Kalen and his staff than credit being given to Clark Lee and his staff. That's been something that's a little bit troubling because I read a bunch of stuff. I don't know how many people watched the game because I read a bunch of articles and stuff really last night and this morning. And I was kind of amazed at how many people continue to reference hangover. I'm like, I watched the game. I didn't look at a team that looked hungover. I looked at a team that just got outplayed, and everything that could go right for the opposition did go right. So I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it was hungover. I don't even know if this is necessarily a poor reflection of Keelan DeBoer. I think it was more of a great reflection on what Vandy had and being able to out-scheme a group, get on the sidelines against a group, and then once fatigue became a factor, start pounding a group there in the second half of the football game.
I felt like during the game, I tried to point that out late in the game. And we referenced it multiple times that this was not a fluke. This was not a gift. This was not one that was handed to Vanderbilt. This was not a game really that I felt like was even lost by Alabama. Vanderbilt won that game. They went and took that game. At the end of the day, that's what happened. They deserve the credit for it, the plan, the execution of the plan. Ball bounced their way a couple of times. Sure, a couple calls could have gone the other direction. Yeah, maybe. But Vanderbilt went and won that football game. And I've heard a couple of different people use the Hugh Freeze, 9 out of 10 times, Bama's winning that game. I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. I don't know. Because if they can't get their offense on the field, which is where their best football players are, how are you going to go win the game? Dr. Mel wants to chime in on the Buyers Right hotline. Welcome in, Mel.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you all this morning?
Doing great, thanks.
Good. I concur with you guys. And I got a chance to watch the game. Vandy, they simply outplayed us and can't blame Coach DeBoer. And so these guys was hungry. Greg mentioned they come off a bye week. And what spoke volumes, as I mentioned to John, Vandy had the ball for 42 minutes and 8 seconds. Bama scored 35 points in a time frame of 17 minutes and 52 seconds. So that's volume there, but they came out. They was aggressive. They was going to execute. They had no fear in them, and so they played their tail off, but they took the game to us and they won the game. So, but as Greg mentioned a minute ago, hats off to the Vandy coach Lee, and they just we were outplayed. One drive I think was 17 plays, another one 15 plays, and just wear your defense out. But my concern, one other quick comment, my other concern is my alma mater, UAB. What in the world are we doing? 71 points at home, and I think that's probably the second worst loss in the history of UAB football. So I'm going to hang up and listen to you guys about not Bama, but the UAB situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Mel. We've got that one plugged in for a little bit later in the show. Really good team that they faced. I don't think anybody would debate that. We talked to Coach Dilfer last week about the challenges that were going to come with what Tulane brought to the table. 71, I don't think is excusable at any point in time. But just a team specifically on defense trying to find itself right now. And it just didn't look good. Quarterback's not out there. And so that changes your offense just a little bit. Your backup comes in, throws 3 interceptions. That's going to do a lot to help the other team go win a football game, specifically when they run for 317 yards on 50 carries and have 6 touchdowns on the ground. That's going to make things look bad, no matter who you are. Greg, we were referencing before the break, you were asked about the Auburn 4th and 1. And to set it up, I'll give folks some. Well, I want you to give the context of how things looked, what was happening in the game, what you felt about the game, and then we'll hear from Hugh Freeze and hear from Peyton Thorne as to kind of their reactions after the actual play.
Well, let's start with the game itself. A lot of positives, I think, for Auburn. Also, I think on the other side, a lot of positives for Georgia. Georgia, I think, figured out, hey, in Auburn, basically, their defense plan is keep it in front, no big plays, just rally up and tackle. I thought Auburn's secondary did a great job tackling in the game outside of one player in particular who seemingly always has a significant whiff. But I look at it, and I think Auburn battled. And I think the final score was not indicative of how close that game really felt. But the 4th and 1 play was really the straw that broke the camel's back, because they didn't get it. Georgia goes right down, makes it 28-10, and at that point, it's all she wrote. But Auburn, with the chance to drive, they have really done a lot of positive things, and they were a shoelace tackle here and there away from this thing being a very close game, and maybe even breaking a run or two there in the first half that could have broke this thing open and put it on its head. I thought the offensive line, left side in particular, was not good. To get sacked on the opening play because your tackle doesn't know what he's doing is a little frustrating. To have a full slide protection from left to right.
On slide protection at that.
What's that?
On slide protection at that.
Well, it was a half roll protection. It's really like a boot action protection, and you got to pin the edge. Like, it's bad. You give up a sack later because you don't know what the heck's going on. The right tackle sliding, you get beat inside on a full slide from left to right. Like, that can't happen. Happened again. You false start on a 3rd and 3, make it a 3rd and 8 because you can't keep yourself in a stance. Like, it's terrible. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Left tackle's got to be better. I mean, he's been a problem all season long, and it ain't getting better. I think the receivers are fine. I don't think Cam Coleman's there yet. I think he's got work to do. I think Malcolm Simmons is actually their second best receiver behind Keandre Lambert-Smith. Cam just doesn't win the contested catch battle. He doesn't give his quarterback enough room. I mean, he's trying to throw back shoulder balls, and Cam's out of bounds. It's like, what are we doing? So I think he's a bit of a work in progress. I just think the team's young. They make critical mistakes, and they panic in critical down and distances. And here's what I would say about the 4th down play. From a player's perspective, Okay. I'm just going to be honest with you. From a player's perspective, I would never change a 4th down call. Why? Because that's why coaches make a lot of money, to make calls on the most important play of the game. Unless I had played 21 years and had 6 Super Bowl rings to my credit, I'm not changing the play on 4th and short. Ain't happening. Like, that one's on the coach. And if it fails, then it fails. I'm not taking the responsibility on that play. There's no way on earth I would do it. And I bet you asked 99% of quarterbacks, they would tell you, yeah, that's a call it and run it situation. And I don't know what was called, because I don't think like I said, I don't think the freedom should ever be given to a quarterback in 4th and short to change the play. And I don't know if freedom was given. I also don't know what was called. I know what Hugh said he called, but I don't know. I don't know that for sure, because I don't think the quarterback would change it. I really don't. So based on how Jarquez operated, he didn't really attack the end. They had man on man outside. You can't run zone read in that situation. No quarterback on God's green earth is going to stick with a zone read or check to a zone read in that look. There's no way on earth. I don't care how little football you know. I could put my 5-year-old out there and say, all right, hey, Vince, read the end. But you know what? You're going to have to make that corner miss. I don't think you check to that. I don't know if that was what was called or what, but I don't know if you check to that, because there's just no way on earth you can run that play against that look. So if you have that look, a timeout has to be called. If that's the play call, a timeout has to be called. If the look is messed up, you got to call timeout there. You got to burn one, because it's too critical down a distance. So I know Hugh said it was some dive to the left. I don't know. I don't know what the play was called, but they need to make sure that their 4th down operation is ironed out. And hey, this is a call it and run it. You have no freedom to check it. Or if you don't like the play, let's just burn a timeout. It's too critical down a distance to mess around with.
All right, so this was Hugh Freeze after the game when he was asked about that 4th and 1 play.
Yeah. It was, the call was a dive left to Jarquez, and we didn't execute that play.
Okay. So he says the call was a dive to the left. It looked like they were blocking. I would probably reference it as duo, is what the blocking scheme looked like. I haven't heard dive referenced since I was playing Tecmo Bowl, so I don't really know. Number one, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. He was asked about it again later in his press conference and explained it this way.
Yeah, he absolutely didn't go with what we had called. Peyton's a thinker, and he knows football, and he decided to try to run some type of zone read there, and I think everybody was a little confused, but we definitely weren't on the same page there, and I should have used one of our timeouts there when I saw things were going awry. But that's something we've got to learn from, and again, we've got to coach better to where that's really not an option in that moment in time. That was a big drive, man, and we were moving the ball, and so we've got to talk through that one and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Okay, so like you said, big moment. Greg, you were on the game. That was coming out of a timeout. It was into the quarter.
Right.
So that goes even further with what you're saying about the operation of everything. When you come out of a timeout, everything should be hammered out. Everything should be known. There shouldn't be a lot of discussing things. You should have discussed maybe the multiple fronts that you could potentially get, what you thought you were going to get if you get this, get to that. You also had 3 timeouts and another clock stoppage with the 2-minute timeout and 1 quarter of football left to go. It was 21-10. You needed points there. If the quarterback doesn't have that freedom and is unable to do those things, and you see him beginning to do those things, you burn the timeout. As you said, it's a critical down and distance right there. Go ahead and get that done. That was one thing that was a little bit confusing. I know you don't want to burn a timeout coming out of a stoppage. I get that. It's a bad look, and it's just bad ball in general. but you had the opportunity to do it in, as Hugh Freeze said, a moment that was overly critical in that game. So then Peyton Thorne, after the game, was asked about what happened during the 4th and 1. I guess play, pre-snap, everything that went into it.
Well, we're running a run play. They had an option to throw it to. And the look that I got, we had a guy that, I needed to handle and moved back out of his original position and ran the play. I think it was number 11, came off the edge hard, and that's the guy I was reading. And, I don't want to get into too much detail on that, I guess. I could tell you the whole thing, but I don't think so. Probably shouldn't.
So then there's that. I don't know where to go with it. I don't know what to say about it, but something's not right. As you stated, Greg, the operation in that moment has to be on point. It has to be. And there are a lot of people I feel like are jumping to conclusions on this, but all I'm going to say about it is I'm not 100% sure exactly everything that went into this. And it doesn't seem, it's not sitting right with me. It doesn't feel right. And so I wasn't there. I wasn't in the headset. I wasn't in the huddle. I wasn't on the sideline. But I don't think that things are always just as easy as some people would like to believe that they are.
Yeah, and I think that's perfectly fair. Ultimately, everyone wants to blame. Everyone wants to point out and say this and do this. And I just know this. As a player, I'm not changing the play on 4th down. And I had a lot of freedom and autonomy. I would never do it. And frankly, I don't think Peyton Thorne would either. Just, that's my own opinion. I don't know what the deal was, but I do know whatever play they ran was botched from the get-go. And that just can't happen. Not in a critical down and distance play. I just don't know. I wish badly we had the offensive plan and the offensive script. I don't know. I don't know what it was. All I know is that you cannot butcher a play that could potentially lose the game in the event in which you fail. So it's a tough moment. It's a learning moment, but I don't know. It's a hard thing for me to wrap my head around because it's a play that they had ran with success earlier in the game, and that the exact play, Peyton kept it around the left side and converted a 3rd and short. So it's a play they had success with, but against that look, it can't be run. Either you don't snap the ball and you call timeout, or you adjust the play, or you give freedom to check the play or change the play. Whatever play they ran, I don't know if that was a play that was called. I don't know if that was a play that was checked to. I don't know. All I know is that play that was run can't be run in that situation against that look defensively. Just can't, under any circumstance.
Yeah, and it's kind of the last thing about it here, and if other folks want to give their thoughts on it, they can. There was no option to hand the football off there. The running back turns immediately after the mesh to block the defensive end. So I've seen a lot of just hand the ball off, just hand it to him, just give him the football. Jarquez was not running that play. He turned. You can't get out of a mesh read that quickly and block the end. That can't happen. So it's another part that's puzzling that I kind of don't understand. So not sure if
that was my initial reaction. Like when you look at my first telly, I mean, I drew that with a blocking tee of Jarquez right to the defensive end. Like that's what I didn't know what the heck that was, because yes, there is in a zone read situation where the back will go back, but he's not blocking the read guy. He's blocking the second level defender. So I don't know what the deal was, but either way, it was absolute. It was a critical moment in the game. And whatever Coach Freeze ends up doing moving forward with how they handle down and distances like that, you just can't have a bust. You can lose, and hey, if your left guard gets swam and they make a tackle in the backfield, it happens. If if you have a great DN that splits a double team, it happens. You have an unbelievable play by a linebacker that shoots a gap, it happens. But you can't lose it because of your own execution malfunctions, right, Cole? I mean, that's all. Like, if there's one takeaway here, you have to execute. You might not win, you might not convert, but you have to execute better with the game on the line.
At least give yourself a chance. And,
Yes.
they didn't give themselves a chance on that play. So I see the phones are jammed. We'll try to get to those on the other side, get to your feedback. You have to wait for that for just a moment. But one thing you never have to wait for, GMAC, is your dental care.
That's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of. They're the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day in 4 locations to make it easy on you: Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, and Alabaster. Go see Family Care Dental because we know scheduling's tough. They can see you on Fridays and Saturdays. They accept most insurance plans. They also accept patients of all ages. So go see them. Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, and Alabaster. 874-9605. That's Family Care Dental. 874-9605.
All right, back with more of your feedback, phone calls, texts, tweets next on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, Monday, October 7th, 8:24 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5, 800-239-9569. You want to get in. Maybe there's just a new flag bearer for college football here in the state of Alabama. Troy goes down. South Alabama goes down. Alabama State goes down. Alabama A&M went down. Sanford got a win,
Yes, sir.
27-3, 2-2 on the season. VMI goes to 0-5. Quincy Crittenton, 26-30, 196, 3 touchdowns, no picks. They outgained VMI 312 to 131. A solid day for the Bulldogs, Damian, or VMI just not great?
Nah, well, a little bit of both. Sanford came out the gate because you got to think they haven't played in pretty much 3 weeks, but they came out the gate swinging. And on their first possession, they had like 4 plays, went down and scored. VMI was starting a freshman quarterback in his first start. He looked shaky. They couldn't get established anything on the run game, but yeah, just a complete effort from Sanford on all fronts.
All right, so Sanford and Jacksonville State, the only teams that I can find in the state that won over the weekend. Jacksonville State knocked off Kennesaw State Friday night, 63-24. Kennesaw State 0-5. Jacksonville State 2-3. Jacksonville State Gamecocks ran the ball 53 times for 384 yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. Tyler Huff 15 for 176, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Trey Stewart 24 for 134, 4 touchdowns on the ground. Pretty good day there for Jacksonville State as they find a way to get a win and did a lot of it on the ground. So it's definitely one that you're going to look at and say, how did that take place when you think about the actual statistics they put up on the ground. You never know how it's going to take place as far as trying to find a new home or get rid of your home. So let the Gusty Goulas Group help you. 205-542-1996. You can Google Gusty Goulas Group and see over 835-star Google reviews. They're brokered by eXp Realty. They've been marketing all their homes for a long time. They know how to utilize the latest tools like social media, photographers, and more to be able to help get top dollar for your home. Serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. You can trust Gusty's aggressive, improving selling system. He's got what it takes to attract hundreds of qualified buyers who are going to want your home. Since 2012, Gusty Goulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. Call 205-542-1996 today or visit GustyGoulasGroup.com. All right, let's go back to the Buyers Right hotline. DC is in Montgomery, wants to talk to Alabama. DC, welcome into the show.
Thank you, guys. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, granted, I haven't really watched Vanderbilt all year, and apparently the defensive staff at Alabama hasn't either. But what could have been done differently? I mean, I'm wondering, I haven't watched them, so Tim Beck and company, did they do anything differently Saturday that they haven't done all year? Was this a bye week situation when they rolled out a bunch of new looks, a new scheme, new execution, or is this pretty much their base offense that they've shown on film all year?
I think they had a couple new formations. We talked a little bit earlier. I think the shovel pass was a new wrinkle. I think some of the things that they did with jet motion were a little bit different. They sort of flooded the jet sweep a little bit, and I think that brought extra defenders with it, and Alabama was able to get some things backside against that, or Vanderbilt was able to find some things backside on the defense. But mostly it's just that this is just what they run, how they run it. I just thought they did an excellent job in execution. And if you ask me what Alabama should have done differently, it would be execute. Well, you got to stay home. You got to fit the run in the way that you're being asked to fit it. I'm sure there's some things that Kane would like to call a little bit differently from, an aggressiveness perspective. Maybe even start out attacking a little bit more early. Try to cause the timing to be off, the rhythm to be off.
Well, that was going to be my point, because I heard you say that a couple of times on the broadcast, which you guys did a great job. But it's like so many times an Alabama defender would just be caught in conflict, to your point. And I just felt like guys were just standing there kind of waiting on a guy to come to them. And granted, I didn't play. I've never coached, but it just looked like, to your point, they could have attacked the mesh point a little bit more and at least, had more guys along the front, or at least maybe played a different front. Again, I'm no expert, but I just felt like there were too many gaps and too many openings for guys just to slip through. And it just was incredibly frustrating to watch. So
I can imagine. And I think a lot of those gaps, DC, were caused and Vanderbilt players are able to slip through them because of what they were presenting, the presentation of that offense. You saw a lot of trades, a lot of motions, a lot of shifts, different players in different places, different formations, and you have to defend all of it. And when they can get you lined up the way that they want to and then put you in conflict, that's when things become a little bit difficult. So, like I said, I think Kane would have probably taken a little bit different approach early as to usually, Greg, somebody is attacking and somebody's waiting. Like somebody's waiting to see what you're doing and somebody's attacking you. Sometimes the offense attacks you and the defense waits to see what you do. Sometimes the defense attacks and the offense also attacks. Sometimes defense waits, offense attacks. And it's just that's the chess match that is football. It's what makes it beautiful.
Well, here's what I'd say about the whole attacking. I think hindsight is 2020. Normally when you're playing an offense that is rooted in triple option principles, like you just have to be accounting for the person that you're responsible for. So when you practice against triple option, like traditional practicing against triple option, the scout team offense does not have a ball. You realize that? Like old school, traditional triple option, when you're practicing against it, the scout team does not use the ball. Why? Because it is not about the ball in triple option. It's about playing your responsibility. And I felt like there were a handful of examples in this game where guys did not play their responsibility. They got overly aggressive, potentially in a situation where it required conservative play at the second level. There were also times guys were trying to make a play. I mean, they could sense that, hey, this thing is getting away from him a little bit, so I got to do something above and beyond to try to kind of stymie this momentum that Vanderbilt's trying to create. I thought that probably happened 4 times, maybe 5. It was not some outrageous number. It was pretty workmanlike and methodical, and playing against triple option offense is very difficult. Very difficult. And you look at some of the shovel pass stuff, that's triple option. Your shovel pass guy is your dive guy. You have some kickouts. You have some pullers. Like there's some things that you got to account for, and there's a lot of eye violations that were created, and they took the cheese. I mean, that's what that offense is designed to do, is to take advantage of your aggression, and that's what happened. I did not think the guys did a great job of playing their responsibilities, and as a result, they got gashed a couple times. That, I think, is something that will be very, very important to get addressed moving forward, because guess what? It's a copycat league. And while not every team you play is equipped to run the offense that Vanderbilt's running, you don't think Bama's going to see shovel pass moving forward? I can promise you they will. You don't think you're going to see some outflanking with some movement stuff? You don't think there's going to be more teams that are going to move the pocket? I mean, Bama had 7 pressures in the game and didn't have a sack. There's going to be teams that move the pocket now as a result of this previous tape. So if you don't get it fixed moving forward, that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I mean, it exposed them in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean it can't be cleaned up, but it was definitely an exposure type of game.
Absolutely. All right, we'll continue going to the phones, get your feedback, take your calls here, your thoughts on games over the weekend. Greg is at Russellville. Welcome into the show, Greg.
Morning, man. You have a great show, and both of you do a great job on Saturdays.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I was going back to last year watching. I'm a football-holic, so I watch Tuesdays nights, Wednesday nights. But I watched New Mexico State play probably about 7, 8 games last year, and when they played Auburn, that to me, it wasn't that Auburn played that terrible. It was just that they did the same thing to Auburn they did Alabama, and them bringing the quarterback over, Vanderbilt bringing the quarterback over, and the coach, Keel, isn't he there now? I mean,
yeah, but so is the offensive coordinator Tim Beck too. I mean, they brought so is the tight end Eli Stowers. They brought a lot of guys with them. I mean, he gave them the offense, and he also changed up his philosophy as a head coach, which I think has gone a long way with this as well. But I mean, yeah, he made massive adjustments, massive shifts. But I mean, he's the one that went and made those, so you give him credit for that.
Right. I mean, some friends of mine were talking. We were talking last week, and we were scared to death of this game. I mean, everybody kept saying, "Oh, we'll go in there and take care of business," but this game scared me to death. And going back to high school, we played a team every year, the first game of the year, and it was the only team we played that way all year. But they ran a wing tee and would go into a wishbone out of a wing tee, and then all of a sudden spread wide. And that team was so hard to every year. We spent the whole fall camp getting ready for one game because it is so hard. So, and then one thing, my question I was going to ask you though is coming into that game, that they're going to be wanting time of possession, and it's fine to score real quick, but you put your defense back out on the field so much faster. My question is, why do you think Alabama wouldn't come into that game and pound the rock at them more?
I've asked that question. I can't answer it. I don't know. They ran the ball in consecutive downs 4 times across the course of the game. And in the first play out of the gate, you got good movement. Looked like you were going to have success running the football. I feel like, and Kalen DeBoer said it at halftime. He told Alyssa Lane, he said, listen, they've owned the football. Possessions are going to be at a premium in the second half. We have to make the most of them. Like, he was aware of that. He knew that. But you just, it didn't change.
But the thing,
what
you
was
have
happening.
35 offensive snaps or however many it was. You know, like that's, I mean, at the end of the day, and there really wasn't a whole lot of opportunities just to go and play, because you didn't have enough opportunities to go and run. And look, yeah, perfect world, yeah, you pound the football, but you got to also look at the scoreboard and like, oh, this is a 2-score game. Like, got to keep like, we got to get back into this thing.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's yeah, in a perfect world, it's easy to say, yeah, man, I'd love nothing more than to pound the football 100%. There's not a guy in the world that would look at that game and say, yep, it's not beneficial to Bama to be the more powerful team, but you're down pretty much the whole game, it felt like. I mean, down 13 early off the pick 6. Then you're down 23-14 in the second half. You come out and you get a good score early there in the first drive of the second half. They answer immediately on the 4th down, which was huge, right? That was enormous. And then you're in a hole down 12 in the fourth quarter. Like, when were you going to be able to consistently create a rushing attack? I just don't know when that was going to happen.
I think down 12, it didn't feel like the game was completely out of your hands. I felt like you still had an opportunity to go win that game and could have at least established a little bit more of a run game then. That's just my mindset, though. I mean, it's like you said out of the gate, Greg,
You'll never
35
find
points
me
on
mad
the
about
road.
running the football.
It's like you said early in the show, 35 points on the road, this should be enough. Bottom line, there's not a lot else that you really need to have a discussion about there, because the offense, when they had the ball, I thought played a pretty good game. Like I said, there are a couple guys up front could have played better. Now, receiver depth, something that a little bit of a concern also. Kendrick Wall doesn't play in the game. Kobe Prentice takes a shot in the game. So you're down some guys there. I mean, that could have changed some things, but I still think that you had enough numbers to be able to go out there and manage things the way that you wanted to. All right,
I don't disagree, but I mean, when you have 40 some odd snaps in the game, it's just it's tough sledding, man. I mean, I don't really know what else to tell you. It's tough sledding. So, hey, you got to give immense credit to Vandy for sure. They did a great job of keeping the accelerator pressed, but we can talk all we want about the offensive performance. I mean, what's 45 divided by 35? 45 divided by 35, excuse me, 35 divided by 45. They averaged
1.22. I don't know.
0.77 points per snap. Like, that's pretty dang good. And then they scored 35 with nearly 18 minutes of possession. They averaged almost 2 points per minute of game time in which they held the ball. Like, the offense is not the problem here. It's the defense. And the defense, you had a bunch of guys that sometimes played out of position. I think you had a bunch of guys that were not playing their responsibility. You said some guys that were improvising at times because they were trying to make a play. It was all well-intentioned, but discipline defensively, I think, needs to be honed in on moving forward, because there were eye violations created, but there were also some one-on-ones that were won, which is more concerning to me. Because if Vandy's winning one-on-ones, you're going to get schemed up from time to time. That happens. But if Vandy's winning one-on-ones, what's Texas going to do?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, we'll talk about
what's
that
Ole Miss going to do if you have to face them? Like, they got great weapons, right? So I think that to me might be a little bit more concerning, because I think you can clean up the operation, but you can't change the personnel, and the personnel is a little bit concerning.
Absolutely. All right, we'll continue the conversation next on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Continue moving along right here on Jocks 94.5. Your calls 800-239-9569. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. You can always be a part of the show there. Football season in full swing now means you better be stocked up on Dale's seasoning. Just 30 minutes. Ultimate grilling marinade is going to infuse your meats and vegetables with unbeatable flavor. Makes every bite a game changer, whether you're grilling steaks, burgers, mixing into your favorite game day dips. Dale's versatility will elevate your tailgate spread from bland to bold. Don't settle for boring. Make Dale's seasoning your grilling MVP. All right, back to the phones now. Andy's in Calera. Andy, welcome into the show.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just wanted to bring up something that kind of reminded me on this game Saturday. A lot of people have mentioned the Lyle Monroe game from 2007, but really, if GMAC could go back in the time machine to 2010 and tell us about that South Carolina game where Bama had come off of a big win over Florida at home, then went on the road to South Carolina. South Carolina came off of a 2-week or a bye week facing Alabama. And in that game, Stephen Garcia could do no wrong. And Alabama stayed on their heels the whole game.
Yeah, I'd love to look at the time of possession that day because I felt like we never really, I feel like, I mean, it was one of those where, and guys, we had, our family in town and a bunch of friends in town. We had a great family weekend. Son's birthday, baptism, all kinds of stuff. So I got to engage in a lot of people asking me, like, what did the game look like to you? I said South Carolina 10. Like, where a team just can't miss. And sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, man. Like, these guys are, like, guys at this level are really good. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Guys at this level are really good. In the SEC, it's really good. It's hard to go on the road in the SEC always, even though it's Vanderbilt, where you're probably going to have a pretty significant advantage amount of fans in the stands. But all those things taken into account, sometimes teams can't miss. And, like, you're going to have to outscore them. And you really look at it. You lose the game by one possession. You have 2 turnovers that result in 13 points because of a missed extra point. That's why it wasn't 14. And you basically couldn't get a whole lot going. I mean, 42-17 or 42-08 to nearly 18. It's hard, and you got to give a ton of credit, but sometimes you run into a buzzsaw like that. Team plays a perfect game. You play your C-plus game, and you lose. That's just what happens in the SEC.
Time of possession for your Alabama team that day, 1947. South Carolina had it for 16 minutes and 53 seconds in that game. You did have 315 yards passing. Interesting that was brought up as well. Diego Pavia, 252 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. 80% completed. First FBS player with 2 passing touchdowns on 80% completed versus an AP number 1 team since.
I'll go.
Stephen Garcia, 17 of 20, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns against Alabama in 2010.
The old double. The old double.
There you go.
So there was a little bit of a resemblance there in that game. Continue taking your calls and more next on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569. A lot of you still want to get in and discuss Alabama, Auburn, dropping their games over the weekend. South Alabama goes down to Arkansas State, 18-16. Arkansas State now 3-2. Jags go to 2-4. Gio Lopez, first interception of the year. He did have 2 touchdowns, threw for 292 yards. Jalen Rayner, 30 of 39, 345, a touchdown, no interceptions for the Red Wolves. And Corey Rocker, 8 catches, 172 yards as South Alabama goes down. Alabama State goes down to Florida A&M, 28-13. Alabama State now 2-3. They were just 4 of 15 passing in the game. They did rush 42 times for 211 yards, 2 of 13 on third downs for the Hornets. So a tough one there for them over the weekend. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. We'll move back to your phone calls. But if you're looking to move out of your home into a new home, Greg, who should you call?
That'd be Crocker Moving Service. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up, move your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, Sutton is in College Station, wants to chime in. Sutton, welcome into the show.
Howdy, guys. Wanted to bring a little sunshine to the state of Alabama from Texas. And wanted to ask you guys from a standpoint for the SEC leading Fighting Texas Aggies, I wanted to see if this was a situation of Missouri being overrated or the Aggies being underrated.
I felt like it was a I don't know if it was a bad matchup, but from a game planning perspective, I thought A&M did a hell of a job, and not sure Missouri did a great job. Nick Scorton spiked the first stretch play right there out of the gate and took the offensive tackle like 2 yards back into the backfield and kind of let Missouri know right away, you're not running the stretch play today. And then on top of that, I thought Missouri's protection plans were porous, and what Elko dialed up against that team was phenomenal. The amount of free runners Texas A&M had into the backfield was I hadn't seen anything like it in a long time, Greg. I mean, it was almost like they just knew what call on every play, and that is not an accusation, anything like that. I'm not even trying to be cute. I'm just saying, like, they had it dialed up against what they thought Missouri was going to do, and they executed it well. And here's the thing, A&M doesn't even need that because they got guys that can win one-on-ones up front. Nick Scorton is out of his mind. I mean, he is playing phenomenal football. Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart playing well. But when you can have an understanding of how to be able to get home the way that they did as quickly as they did, and you're negating the stretch play, which is what I think Missouri kind of has to have to get going, you're going to cause some problems. And Connor Wigman was throwing darts, man.
Darts.
Like his misses were like exactly where they needed to be in that game. I mean, he was on point. So it was just a hell of a game by A&M. Like, they executed well on both sides of the football. Missouri looked a little lackluster. You could tell they were feeling sorry for themselves early. Your best player's over there on the sideline with his head leaned back against the air conditioned seats or whatever, and like they were just out of the rhythm, out of sync early. It's just a great game by A&M, in my opinion, Greg.
Yeah, I think great game by A&M. I do think Missouri's a little overrated. I mean, I've been hesitant, to feel good about them all season. Really, even dating back to the preseason, I don't think we learned a whole lot in the first month of the season about who they are, what have you. I still think they got plenty that they can accomplish this season, but the passing game hasn't been super consistent. They have been hesitant to take some shots. The running game hasn't been as consistent as it was. And while the defensive lines looked really dominant against average to below average competition at times, they got pushed around on Saturday. So, yeah, I think that Missouri's a solid football team, but never really had them up in the realms of the elite. Just feel like they're a solid football team and a top 20 team, but I think A&M's legit. I mean, really, really good.
No, I think that they got a chance to be really good, and they cause problems in a lot of different ways. Michael and Aniana wants to chime in. Welcome in, Mike.
War Eagle, Cole.
War Eagle.
Hey, Cole. And Greg, what do y'all think about Billy Napier? Do you think he survives the season?
He's trending that way, but schedule doesn't lighten up. It does look a little bit different than it did before the season. Played a good game against UCF. I thought the rushing attack looked good. Trayvon Ball looked good. Offensive line a little bit better, specifically the middle. Defensive line was great. 88, 99, causing some problems up front. They took a couple more shots down the field. Lagway had one really nice ball down the middle of the field. But you got Tennessee, you got Kentucky, you got Georgia, you got Texas, you got LSU, you got Ole Miss. You got a long way to go. Glad we got some Florida in today, though.
But hey, after what we saw this past week, and don't get me wrong, like they better bring their A game this weekend, but Tennessee appears to be a little more human than we anticipated, so maybe they can make things interesting this week.
Yeah,
but
what a plan from Travis Williams.
What's that?
I said, what a plan from Travis Williams defensively.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Against
Think
Tennessee.
about altering your identity like that on a weekly basis. It'd be pretty impressive. But either way, Tennessee looked pretty dang human this past weekend.
All right, we'll continue taking your feedback for the final hour of the show. 800-239-9569. See a lot of you on hold. We'll get to you, get your thoughts on games over the weekend. Alabama's loss, Auburn's loss, and more next on McElroy and Kubalik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Final hour of the show. 800-239-9569. If you want to be a part, you can tweet into the show as well, at Mac and Cube. Always be a part of the show there. There are some folks pointing out that UNA won this weekend, 60-14 against Utah Tech. Thank you, Greg Skipworth, for keeping us honest on that one. My apologies for doing crummy prep before the show and not having UNA listed in my Alabama State teams that won or lost over the weekend. I will attempt to be better with that next week. And again, I'm very sorry, as multiple people texted in that UNA won over the weekend. So, again, I'll let you guys down. I'm going to try not to do that next week. I will be better. I am not a very good radio host. So, Garnet Spur tweets in, we get Ole Miss after they lose to Kentucky. Now we get Alabama and Tuscaloosa after they lose to Vandy. Bama by 60 at the half. South Carolina did some good things in that game against Ole Miss. I did not think, when I watched the film, I expected that to look totally different. And we'll probably spend some more time on this game tomorrow. But, I mean, I thought South Carolina's D-line was really good. You had a corner fall down in coverage one time on a slant that went to the house. I didn't look at that game and think that, like, South Carolina's not a good football team. They're a problem. The defensive line's still a problem. The Ole Miss offensive line's still a bigger problem for people that just for some reason don't want to believe that. I mean, Jackson Dart got hit like 11 times in this game. And Lenore Sellers is going to continue to grow, man. Lenore Sellers has got it. Like, he has it. He's just young. He needs reps. He needs experience. Threw for 162, ran for 55. But, I mean, you can see it in him. Like, it's there. There wasn't a consistent rushing attack for him to be able to lean on. And, you know, you gave up a couple explosive catches. Trey Harris had one. I think he made a guy miss. And, you know, got in. Unfortunately, you know, they got inside the 5 a couple of times and couldn't make things happen. But I didn't walk away from that game thinking, like, South Carolina's not a great football team. I mean, by the way, it was 24-3 at the half. And the final score was 27-3. So one thing we know is neither coach is good because they didn't score more in the first half than the second half, or the second half than the first half. So Alabama media will tell you that Lane Kiffin, Shane Beamer, not good head coaches. But other than that, I was actually pretty pleased with what I saw some of South Carolina. I know you lost the game and you don't want to lose the game. You get Bama. I think it's more important that you get Bama off a bye week than you do off a loss to Vanderbilt. But either way.
Well, the reality is you scored 3 points. I mean, I know that
you got to get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, you got to score. I mean, and you can't turn it over. You're not a team that's built to be able to turn it over. You just can't. So I look at Lenore Sellers. I think he's got a chance to be a good player in time. I don't think he's there yet. I think he's a good runner for sure. But I also think that if you're going to rely on your run game and you're going to average less than 4 yards a carry, that's going to be a problem for you. Because if you can't get the run game going, then how are you going to win on the outside? And I don't know if they have the players to on the outside of Mazeo Bennett, who to me feels like he's developing into their go-to guy. I just don't trust anybody else on that offense to catch the football. So, which is disappointing. I thought it was a nice bounce back performance from Ole Miss. I really did. I thought they played well. Their defense played pretty well. I think you look at how aggressive they were swiping at the football. That was encouraging. So all that being said, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good spot to be in if you are Ole Miss, because I think Ole Miss has everything in front of them. I think they got their attention. Offensive line's still a problem, but it's going to be a problem against South Carolina every week. That's just a really good group up front. But yeah, I think South Carolina is very human, and especially on the offensive side for sure.
No doubt. But Mazeo Bennett, you're right, and Gage Lavardian, I think too, is another guy that's got some juice that can help them. They got a couple guys there that I think can morph into being some playmakers. But I mean, Robbie Ashford comes in the game, fumbles the football. That doesn't help. So yeah, just some young players that aren't quite ready to be those guys just yet. But I was kind of pleased with some of the things I saw. You'll be pleased with what you get at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now, and you can set up a free consultation. With that free consultation, you get a free testosterone test, free PSA test. If you don't feel good, if you're just feeling crummy, or you lack energy, or you're getting poor sleep, you feel on edge, it might be the effects of low testosterone. Game Day Men's Health can help. They want to help you today, and they have multiple ways that they can do it. They offer a lot of different programs. Any service they offer, You can save 10% of it by mentioning Cube when you walk in the door right now at Game Day Men's Health. Minimal upfront cost for all the programs that they offer, including weight loss programs that can help you with that. Book your free consultation now, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com, and tell them you heard about them right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Okay, more of your feedback coming in. Not Greg McElroy, but Bama Greg is on line 5. Welcome into the show, Bama Greg.
This is Bama Greg here. I just got a question. If Malachi Moore would have done that with Coach Saban, what do you think would have happened? Because that was embarrassing to me as a big, long, lifetime fan. And I promise you, if I was Coach DeBoer, I don't know if I'd suspend him for a whole game, a half, or what, but he would definitely have some problems with me whenever I got into that locker room.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Bama Greg, and I wanted to ask our next guest his thoughts on that because he was also there in person. And Tyler Watts joins us weekly to give us his thoughts on Alabama football, being a part of the radio broadcast next to Chris Stewart. It was good catching up with you in person on Saturday, Tyler. Let's start with that one, though. Late in the game, you get a couple antics, some guys showing their rear end. What were your thoughts when you watched it, and how does Kalen DeBoer correct this moving forward?
Well, that's kind of like everybody else, a little disappointed as it's ongoing. I mean, emotion is great to have, especially on the defensive side. You got to have it. You have to have that passion, but you have to be able to control it. And, Malachi is an emotional guy. He's a vocal leader on that football team, and that's okay. But you can't go over the line. And he absolutely lost his composure. And kind of what we talked about in the broadcast is, man, there ain't no point in throwing your mouthpiece and kicking the ball around at this point in the game. You had 4 quarters to do something, and y'all couldn't get it done. So moving forward, what do you do? I think that's an internal thing that they have to assess what is the best course of action for this football team. And we were just talking about this. You can't make this decision based on public opinion. It's what's best for your team. What kind of respect does he have in the locker room? I think that if this is a guy who gets away with a lot and is not respected in the locker room, you definitely have to make an example. But at the same time, if he's a leader of this football team, you can use him as an example, and he can use it potentially to make himself better and make this football team better.
When you look at and I was able to listen to the last couple minutes as we were leaving Athens, was able to listen to the last couple minutes of you and Chris. It just seemed like disbelief there, especially in the final waning moments on the last drive for Vandy. You said, hey, kick it away, trust your defense. I would be inclined to agree with you most of the time, right? Like, I mean, you would think that they can get off the field at some point, but Vandy just continued to keep the gas pedal pressed, and I think it was really impressive to see them be as aggressive as they were in that 4-minute situation, because they didn't necessarily have to be. But you look at it and you think about how things can be solved defensively. How do you get this thing figured out?
I don't know what the answer is to that. And I know there's probably a lot of head scratching. Maybe this was just one of those anomalies where all the stars aligned for Vanderbilt. And, kind of going back to that decision to kick it deep, you would only force 2 punts the entire game. And one of them was right before halftime, when quite honestly, I think if it were any other juncture of that ball game, they probably attempt a field goal in that situation. So you really only had forced 1 punt all day long. Let's go back to the beginning of the game, though. On the opening possession, Vanderbilt had like a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. They throw a little out route to the running back, and Deontay Lawson gets picked. And any other game is probably a flag. That extended the drive. They go down and score points. Then you're down 13-0 off of the interception. Next possession, I want to say Vanderbilt's driving it again. We force a punt, but we have 2 number 2s on the field. Extends the drive. We set up a 3rd down, get an incomplete pass, roughing the passer, 1st down. Had a face mask, extended that drive a 3rd time. So just too many given opportunities. We had 3 penalties in the first half of 30-something yards, and not a single one of them was on the offensive unit. So those are things that definitely just discipline of controlling your body, playing to the whistle, but doing it in the appropriate manner. That's what you have to clean up. You have to, and that was one of the keys to the game for us, was just finding a way to get off the field on 3rd down. It had been traditionally, or all year long, one of the best 3rd down defenses in the country. But against Vanderbilt, they were able to stay ahead of the chain, set up 3rd and manageable situations, And as you mentioned, your quarterback goes for 80% completion percentage. He's a gritty player. And the rest of the team just fed off of that. And defensively, you never could find an answer to how to slow down that offense. Y'all pretty much talked about everything that I've been thinking about since the game ended. Is how do you stop the triple option? And I still think the penetration, making the decision making as quickly as possible, is the best way to do that. And so often he was slow playing the defense, forcing them, and he had all the time in the world to manipulate that defense so that they could not be right in their option attack. But it was one of those games like you talked about. It's just everything lined up for them. They made the plays when they had to. And say what you want to about the defense, only forcing 2 punts, giving up all the points they did. And I know the offense scored 35 on the road, but as you just mentioned, contributed or set up 13 points for your opponent, and that's just tough to overcome.
Tyler Watts joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. He was on the radio broadcast for Alabama at Vanderbilt, and I agree with a lot of what you said. And I want to go back to what I've tried to hammer today, and I know some people say it's not that big of a deal. Some people think it may be huge, but 4 times they ran the ball in back-to-back plays, and I felt like the tone could have been set. I felt like physically the first play of the game, it looked like, okay, they're going to be able to run the football. They'll be able to get some movement. Essentially reverse course on what Vanderbilt was doing with time of possession. I mean, we know 17:52 to 42:08, but Tyler, I had our guys in the booth at one point say, I want to know the real time between Jalen Milroe snaps. And there was one point that it was 32 minutes and 30 seconds between Jalen Milroe of real time between Jalen Milroe taking snaps in that game. I mean, you guys know as a quarterback, it's going to be tough to find a real rhythm offensively if you're not getting on the field. And I felt like one way to do that would have been for Alabama to possess the football, and didn't know if that was something that was really put into course to try to go out there and accomplish.
I don't disagree with that. And I think mentally as an offensive unit, you start pressing as a result of not having the ball in your hands. You feel like you have to make the plays on first down and second down. In order to kind of get drives going and things of that nature. And it is, that's the coaches really have to be wary of that and understand that, hey, we just got to be systematic in what we're doing to keep our offense on the field, and defense definitely needed a rest. They were absolutely worn out trying to figure out how to stop Vanderbilt's offense. But I'll also say on the flip side of that, I think that you could really exploit this defense through the air. And I want the ball in your best playmakers' hands. And to me, that's number 4, number 5, and number 2. I want those guys touching the ball as often as possible, especially when they're able to get open and make explosive plays. And it really was a possession game, much quicker than normal games. Normally you start trying to figure out how many more possessions you're going to have late in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So this one, though, it was like halfway through the second quarter, you're like, are we going to be able to stop these guys? I mean, what are we going to have to score? And as a result, I didn't disagree. And I even said on the broadcast, they're giving you the passing game, throw it on them. You can take advantage of it. It's about scoring more points than your opponent, and you need the ball in your hands on as many possessions as possible in order to accomplish that.
How would you look? And have been around Kalen DeBoer. The reaction will be very, very strong on the outside. I think Kalen will handle it fine. He doesn't seem like one that gets too high with the high or low with the lows. He's pretty steady Eddie. But it might be a week where he's going to have to get after some folks in the facility and maybe, be a little more stern than he's been in the past. Do you anticipate, him reacting in a way that would be kind of, hey, take it with the grain of salt, like move on? Or do you think he'll be maybe a little more stern like Coach Saban would have been for many, many years?
Well, but think about this. The personality of those two coaches that you just mentioned are completely different. And one thing you don't want to do is change your demeanor, and then all of a sudden your players start freaking out as a result of it. Because when they feel that you're anxious, they're going to become anxious. So that is a good balancing act. How do you hold guys accountable? Damian Square put it best in the postgame. He said, you have to flush this one, put it on film, have an honest assessment while watching it of your performance and what you need to do as a player. So it's really about the maturity of the players moving forward. Are they able to accept what the film is teaching them and what it shows and be able to use it as a positive moving forward? Coach Saban in Game Day had a great discussion on this about transformational coaching versus transactional. So now the rubber meets the road with this football team, similar to what it did last week, but with Georgia. You have to be process oriented and not be so tied into just what the outcome is, but know that you're doing things the right way that's going to set you up for success long term. That way you're not on that emotional roller coaster on a week in and week out basis.
How do you expect this team to respond? Being around them, Tyler, seeing them, just having a little bit better understanding of this team's personality.
Well, and just listening to some of the post-game interviews from the guys, I think that they're going to take it in stride. I think they all have the mindset, and it's a carryover of what they have been conditioned under the previous coaching staff to learn from it, to try to improve on it. And I'm sure that there will be a sense of accountability that each of the players hopefully hold with one another. The last thing that we want, though, as a football team is for the offense to start pointing fingers at the defense and or vice versa. And that can very easily happen. And that's where you're really relying on the leadership of your football team on both sides of the ball to come together and understand there's going to be games where we can only score 17 points and we got to have y'all's help. There's going to be other games where we got to score 50, and that's just how it goes. But we're all in this together.
Well, Tyler, we appreciate you hopping on with us every week. Talk a little bit more about this game, and we'll catch up with you next week, man.
Hey, thanks, fellas.
Tyler Watts, part of the radio broadcast team there for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, alongside Chris Stewart. Got to see him Saturday at the game. It was cool to catch up and just giving us his thoughts on Alabama's loss to Vanderbilt over the weekend. It was a wild weekend, a wild Saturday in college football. We've barely scratched the surface on all of it outside of what Auburn did and what Alabama did. But tell our listeners quickly, Greg, about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services can do so many things around your house. They can help with electrical. They can help with plumbing. They obviously specialize in the HVAC system. And you know that right now, with the heat that we experienced last week and the cold weather that's coming, it might be time for a system tune-up. So call Polar Bear Services to come out, take a peek, make sure everything's running smoothly before the cold weather arrives here. It'll be here before we know it. You don't want to be caught off guard. You want your system up and ready to roll. They also have the home generator installation. They got plumbing. They're serving all over the great state of Alabama. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heater, air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, when we come back, a couple more of you on hold. Get to your calls. Talk about more college football next, right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubalik in the morning. Vanderbilt 40, Alabama 35. Crimson Tide goes to 4-1 over the weekend. Vanderbilt now 3-2. 17 minutes and 52 seconds, Alabama possessed the football in this game. Ran for 84 yards, 2 turnovers. Vanderbilt did not turn the football over. Vanderbilt had 3 flags. And there were a couple of listeners that were asking about some of the calls in the game that were questionable. Quindarius Robinson's roughing the passer, I didn't like it. To be honest with you, I didn't feel like it was very violent or very vicious, but I do understand what the official sees there. He sees helmet-to-helmet contact, face mask making contact with the face mask, and he sees the hand trying to bat the ball down, come down on the quarterback's helmet. It's a quarterback. They're going to protect him. It's going to happen. Didn't love the call, but understand it. The no call on the targeting on Kobe Prentice, like that one was a weird one. And this is what I'm just going to say this because I saw like 3 of these this weekend. In my opinion, we need to go back to a completely different foul for the players that are putting their heads down and essentially spearing again. Like, I don't know why this is coming back. Like, I don't know why people think that this is okay to do again. But remove even a potential targeting call if your goal is to protect a defensive player. And when they come in with their head down, the top of their helmet is hitting someone. Because, Greg, we're missing targeting calls. Like, they're taking targeting calls off the board because guys are essentially hitting with, like, the back top of their helmet. And if that's where you're going to go with that, like, just call spearing again and make it different. Don't eject them, but call spearing and say that's protect a defensive player, and that's going to be gone. But like by the angles that we had, I actually could not tell based on like the small area that we have created that is now the crown of the helmet, if that actually is what made contact with Kobe Prentice. It's a bad hit. It's a vicious hit. I hope Kobe's okay. But that was one that I think was in question. There was one other that a listener asked us about, and I can't recall what it is right now. But I didn't think that any were egregious. I didn't think that any were just like completely terrible that didn't go against Alabama. And I'm not sure if you even saw any of them because you watched coach's tape.
Yeah, I watched coach's tape. I didn't see anything that appeared to be like drastic. I have not watched the television copy. I watched the coach's tape, which I actually enjoy because it removes me from the referees conversation. Because I don't think the game should ever be put into the officials' hands. I did not think the game was poorly officiated based on what I saw.
Damian, John, you guys watched game copies. Did you like you watched the TV copy? Like, were any of those egregious to you?
Not besides the targeting or the missed targeting, I guess
Not
you'd say.
really, no. I mean, that one probably was the worst.
That was like the third. I know the play. And the one, like, I obviously don't understand what targeting is because in the Miami game, for example, there was a blatant no call targeting. I don't know. I must not know what targeting is anymore. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't get it because to me that was very obvious. That was like by the book,
by the definition,
targeting.
Matt Stokes tweeted this in and he asked about those and he said lack of DPI on the pick 6.
I thought it was bang bang. I didn't think he arrived early. I didn't think it was DPI personally. Yeah, it just didn't look like it to me.
And this is just, like we had a couple people during the game that are like, can you just like, why are you guys all talking about Alabama the whole time? And this is just like, bro, we have talked about Diego Pavia. Like we have talked about this offensive line being better. We've talked about how Clark Lee has mentally completely hit the reset button on his program. Like we talked about some of these defensive players like CJ Taylor, who's been around forever. We've talked about DeRicky Wright, who is from Gadsden, Alabama, and is essentially like raising his siblings because he lost his mom. We've talked about Langston Patterson and like what he means to the defense. We've talked about Eli Stowers coming in, a former 5-star quarterback at A&M that goes to New Mexico State and then comes with those guys to Vanderbilt. That's a big part. And Cole Spence, the role player he is. Gabe Fisher, who's on a damn ROTC scholarship, doesn't even have a football scholarship, playing football. And these, I almost cussed on the air right there. It's just like, and this dude, C. Bearden 33 is tweeting into the show, you should be talking about why Vandy won, not why Bama lost. Have we not spelled that out like 20 times today? And I feel like I made it really clear that this game was not a gift. It was not given, and this game was earned and won. And it's just it's almost disrespectful, man. Like for people to hear things the way that they do. It's dumb and it's disrespectful is what it is. And like, I don't know what you're doing. Like you're questioning what we're doing. I don't know what the hell you're doing. Listening to the show and having the gall to say that's how we've projected this today.
Well, we also are in Birmingham, Alabama, and people want to hear about what the Tide can do to get things figured out. So we know the audience. Like none of us have said anything today that would take anything away from what Vandy did and achieved. But most of our audience cares a lot more about how do you get things fixed? How do you avoid the similar outcome in the future? No one's taking anything away from Vandy, but
no,
don't worry about it. It's one guy. We have thousands upon thousands upon thousands
let's
nationwide that are listening, and probably in some cases international.
It's great. Let's let Jay come in on line 2 and tell me how wrong I am again today, John, and how bad my prep was for the show. Welcome in, Jay.
Oops, he dropped. My bad. Oops, sorry.
No, Tuskegee won, and I didn't. It's. I think they played yesterday, and so it throws me off when they play on Sunday sometimes, and so I don't go find it, and so that's my fault.
What did Jay want to talk about?
He wanted to tell us that Tuskegee won over the weekend too, and that's on me because I didn't go look at Sunday, and I think they played on Sunday again this week. Maybe they didn't play on Sunday this week. So either way,
I don't know how we missed that.
That's my fault for not doing that. I usually get all the in-state teams in, and once again, I didn't get the UNA score in this week. That's my fault. I write those down every week, and I kind of go back and try to look at what happened. They did not play on Sunday this week, so. Once again, I said it earlier in the show when Greg in Athens corrected me and 7 other people tweeted in. I will try to do better. I am not having a good show today. I did not prepare well today, and I apologize for the 57 games that I watched over the weekend and tried to come in here and spell out for you what I saw and how it went and what it looked like. That was not good enough for you guys. So I will try to do better. I will. I was not a good radio host today, and I let a lot of people down. So I apologize for that. And the only thing I can do is go back to the drawing board and completely revamp my process in getting ready for the show and completely try to redo how I do things on a daily basis and how I really operate in my daily life routine. Mike is in Trustville. Welcome in, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, before I get to my question, man, I love you, Cole. You did a great job on the game Saturday. Listened to you on the radio or on TV, and did a great job. And my question is, I want to know what happened to our supposedly attacking defense. I watched the 2 rush ins, and they looked like they were totally confused the whole game. What's y'all's opinion of that?
I do think confusion was a big part of it, and that's what I was trying to explain or have a conversation with Tom during the game, is that when you are on your heels, when you are thinking, when you are waiting defensively, that's a problem, specifically against an offense that has options in where they can deliver the football, where they can hand it, where they can run it, where they can throw it. If you're waiting on that, that's what they want. They want you to think, they want you to wait, they want you to be a step behind, and I feel like that's a lot of what it was with Alabama. But I'm going to go back again for whoever the nerd was that tweeted in a few minutes ago, okay? Here's how that happened. Tim Beck, offensive coordinator for Vanderbilt, who I have given loads of credit today. What he did on early downs in this game, he kept running the same inside zone read to the backside to see how Alabama was playing it. And then he called his plays off, and it never went for more than like 2 yards. But he was using that to see how it was being played on that drive, and then he called around that. Strategically, he won right there. That was a great job by him. And credit goes to Vanderbilt, for those who don't think we spelled that out today.
Anchor down, boys.
Bob is in Chelsea.
I'm not engaging.
Is it Bob? I wouldn't engage with me today either.
It's not with you.
No.
Who's in Chelsea, John?
I mean,
put them on.
I'm not worried about it.
What's going on, 808? Hey, quick question. Is Greg still calling games?
Yes.
I know not many people watch Auburn games on ABC anymore, but I mean, I felt like it was one that probably did a pretty decent number with the number 4 team in the nation playing.
Yeah, we ain't got time for that. But actually, Cole, you did a good job calling that game, brother. So I don't think you was biased. I'm going to double salute you and tell you did an epic job. I enjoyed it. I guess I watched that game because they were on, right behind each other. So, yeah, but the problem is, to be honest with you, brothers, is Alabama got to go back to their hard-nosed, disciplined football. All this dancing and popping and doing all this stuff, that's no discipline. And you guys celebrate each play y'all do, but that ain't how Saban taught y'all how to create this excellence of football. And I think that's a big distraction with the program. And honestly, I'm an Auburn fan, but I can't stand seeing that Alabama do that type of stuff. I know it's part of the game and the game evolving, but that is not true Alabama football.
Well, 808, I hate to tell you, but there was a lot of Auburn kids doing stuff too. Like after an 8-yard gain, I mean, there was literally a deep ball that was overthrown, and the DB got up and celebrated.
Exactly.
And I'm just,
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
Guess what? I'm used to seeing that at Auburn. It's okay. Auburn needs to celebrate every little win they get. I'm not used to seeing. I know it sounds biased, but I'm not used to seeing Bama do that. Auburn will celebrate, for kicking a freaking field goal and being stopped on the 1-yard line.
Fair enough.
So I'm just.
Thank you.
I just think that. All right, Rob. Have a good day now.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I hate it too. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I can't sit there and tell you that I get all fired up when you got choreographed dances. I didn't like it when Jameson Williams did the Karate Kid thing. Like, I don't like it. To me, you score a touchdown, you toss it to the official. Like, I am of the Barry Sanders mindset, but that's not what the kids want. Like, I mean, to me, I'm old school. Like, I'm really old school. I think a lot of y'all that are listening to this show, just knowing the age range of people that listen to the show, it's just different now. Like, it's just different. And the players, if you want to be a program that players want to play in, you have to give a little more than you used to. And even Coach Saban gave a little more than he used to. Like, back in the day, you start celebrating, high-fiving, hooting and hollering after, tackling the guy for a 6-yard gain on 1st and 10. Like, yeah, Coach Saban, guess what? Last couple of years, he kind of allowed that stuff too.
Greg, let me interrupt you real quick. That's a major part of what Clark Lee said he has done in hitting the reset button on being a head coach this offseason. He's like, our best players need to play. So are there some things that slide through the cracks now that I used to would have absolutely nothing for and wouldn't have gone by? Yes. He's like, now our kids, running the streets, fighting people, and robbing convenience stores? No. He's like, but if a guy acted like an a-hole yesterday and technically didn't really do anything wrong, and normally I would have had something to do with him and he would have been doing stuff after practice or he'd have lost his starting job, we might overlook that now. I mean, it's just like Clark Lee went out of his way to tell us how mentally and emotionally he's had to take a completely different approach with this football team because he wants to win. And you have to have players to be available to win. Well, number one part of players being available is being on your team first and foremost. Like, you got to have the talented guys on your team first. And then you got to go out and coach them and try to motivate them and go win games. So it's not just there. It's everywhere. Having to find different ways to manage it. And it's with a lot of things in college football now. You don't have to like it. You just got to try to understand it.
Yep.
I don't like the transfer portal. I hate it. But I understand why a guy might want to leave. I get it. There's parts of NIL I don't like, but I understand why a guy would say, hey, coach, I've been balling out, man. Like, I feel like I deserve more than the guy that's on the bench making, 5 times more than I am. I don't like it. I hate it, but I get it. So there's a lot of that right now that we just got to kind of try to find a way to rewire how we look at it and think about it and feel about it, because it's totally different. Unlike Bromberg's, who's always had beautiful items that you can go in and find.
Yeah, Bromberg's is great. They're going to create that luxury shopping experience that you'll only find at the retailer that has been owned and operated by their family, owned and operated for the last 200 years. They're the oldest business firm in the state. And when you walk in the door, you'll understand that it's just an elevated experience because of how you're treated as a customer. Whether it's jewelry, watches, giftware, you're buying something that might be a legacy piece that'll be in your family for generations potentially. So you don't want to mess around with that. Go and experience it for yourself. It's the only place I've shopped. I know you guys we'll love it if you go in there as well. So go and check them out in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, or you can always shop online at Brombergs.com.
Tuskegee took out Morehouse 42-0 over the weekend. They get to 2-3. Morehouse drops to 1-5. So did want to give an update on that game. We'll get more to your feedback, more of your calls, and just try to do better as a radio show host next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, 10:40 a.m., Monday, October 7th. Don't look at your clocks. It's 10:40 where I am, 9:40 where you are. I'm in Charlotte, so on Eastern time.
Bill Smith Buick GMC
Go ahead, Greg.
is the GMC Dealer of the Year. You look at all the different deals they have on the lot, you'll understand why some of the deals are the only things. I mean, you just won't find them anywhere else. You can go get yourself a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, $13,500 off the sticker price, $68,000 is the list. You can get it for under $55,000, at actually just over $54,000. Deals like that keep people coming back. It's amazing. You can get some vehicles with 3.9%. You can get some just amazing and incredible deals. When you take the short drive up to Coleman, you'll see what I'm talking about. Go see Andy Cole. Go see Jonathan Yeager. You'll be glad with the experience that you have when you shop at the GMC Dealer of the Year at Bill Smith Buick GMC. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right. Edmund is tweeting into the show. He tweets Mac and Cube. A lot of people listen from places like Nashville. Personally, Cole, you get a pass for it being a Monday. Vandy got all the credit they needed when they dragged the goal poles to the Cumberland River. Anchor down.
Hey.
Why aren't they called goal poles? I feel like that's actually kind of apt.
Feels more accurate.
Yeah.
Goal pole.
I just read the tweet.
Makes sense to me.
Them goal poles.
Them goal poles. Oh boy.
All right.
It's been a day.
It has. It's only not even lunchtime. All right.
Not even lunchtime. It's not even breakfast time. What do you mean?
That too. Let's go to Willis in Chelsea. Welcome into the show, Willis.
Hey, how y'all doing? First of all, go Gators. Hope that we beat Tennessee and Nico Amalama's mama or whatever his name is. But the reason I called in is on TV, everybody talks about the Malachi Moore and the throwing, whatever he did and kicking the ball. Nobody wants to talk about how Jalen Milroe sat over there with like 3 minutes left in the game. The game's not over. He's not up cheering his defense. He's not up working with his offense. Hey, if we get the ball back, this is what we need to do. Now he's sitting there pouting with his arms folded, trying to talk to the cop about being, I guess, protected when they storm the field or whatever. How come nobody's talking about that? It's a bad look for your leader, supposedly.
I didn't. I mean, I saw I know we had one shot of him on the bench, but I feel like there was a lot of football left when that happened. So that's why I guess I didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, it was like 3 minutes left, and he's just pouting, looks like, I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, I'll just say this. And I have no reason to defend Jalen Milroe. I don't know him. But I was at practice Thursday, and I can tell you that he was the most vocal player at practice, without a doubt. Multiple times went out of his way to talk to the defense, to talk to the entire offense, the entire team. I don't think leadership is a question with him. Now, different situations bring out different things in different people. Just like when people tweet into the show and tell me that I'm not giving Vanderbilt enough credit. You can see what that brings out in me. So we all react different ways to different things. I hate losing. So my wife won't allow me to play can jam with my in-laws because I got so pissed off at her because she couldn't get the Frisbee close to the can. So that gives you an idea of how I act when things are not going my way in a, quote fingers, sporting event. I'm probably not the one to be speaking on it. So, I mean, were you always fun to be around when y'all lost, Greg? Damien?
No.
Were you a cool kid when you were losing? I mean, it's hard.
It sucks.
I know, yeah, and I know everybody wants you to be Captain America when you're getting your ass kicked, but it just doesn't work that way. So I didn't see anything from him and listen, Greg and I have had in-depth conversations about bad body language from quarterbacks on this exact radio show.
Yep.
And it has been atrocious with certain guys. So we have had no problem pointing that out. I just didn't see anything to the point where I felt like it needed to be discussed with Jalen Milroe, and Jalen Milroe is a problem. If anything, I've seen the other side of Jalen Milroe this year, and I've had an opportunity to see different pieces of practice and different other things, but I feel like his leadership's been pretty good based on what I've seen. I wouldn't question it at all.
No. I mean, I think that you're bummed, dude. I mean, you lost. I mean, you're on the losing end. You don't seemingly have any answers. Like, that hurts. And yet, I mean, I don't know how. I'm not going to be up there hooting and hollering. Like, what are you supposed to be cheering on the defense? I don't really know. Like, the offense is in charge of their stuff. You're in your silo. The defense is in charge of their stuff. They're in their silo. Like, yeah, there are some times when you get up and you're standing as opposed to sitting. I don't know. It doesn't make that big a difference to me. I didn't see it. I didn't watch it. I watched the coach's tape, and I looked at the execution and or lack thereof on both sides of the ball. That's what I'm focused on. Not so much the extracurriculars. Like, a lot of people making a lot about Malachi Moore. Like, he handled it poorly for sure. I'm sure he would probably tell you that. I don't think it's some reflection that, this staff has no discipline because of what Malachi Moore was doing. I mean, he was trying to get subbed out. I mean, I think everyone's trying to make a little bit more out of things than need to be made out of. Like, sometimes you just lose.
You just get beat.
And I know sometimes you just get beat. Like, that's just the way things go. And I know that that's uncomfortable and that stinks. but sometimes you just get beat. And if you remove the opponent, make them nameless, faceless, and you don't think about them through the perspective of Vanderbilt, if you put an Arkansas logo on the side of the helmet, is the reaction as strong today? Probably not. I really don't think so. I think people have a perception about what Vandy is and what Vandy has been. And as a result, the reaction is stronger and the criticism of the players' reactions is stronger. I think the players' reactions are stronger because it's Vandy. I mean, let's just be real. The Vandy deserves immense amount of credit. Clark Lee deserves tons of credit because that is not the same old Vandy team that we've seen for the last 10 to 12 years. That's a very capable team with really good players and made it very difficult with their scheme and their execution on Saturday for the Bama defense and at times for the Bama offense. So it is what it is, man.
All right, we'll head to break. Come back, give you I'm not going to say an all-timer.
Oh, boy.
But a very, very, very surprising bad box score of the day. And on our way out, I'll leave you with this. At Skinner Buddy tweets into the show, at Mac and Cube. Cole, you are an absolute Bammer, Gomer, Homer. Shut your pie hole and show a little bit of class and unbiased journalism. Emoji face. Emoji anchor.
All right.
Now people are just trying to get a reaction.
Yeah, right. They're poking it.
That's what happens. You can't show.
I appreciate that he thinks I'm a.
Never let him see you sweat.
I appreciate that he thinks I'm a journalist.
There we go.
But I will try to channel my inner Tom Brokaw during the break, and we'll be back after this. Is this an intentional song selection, John?
No, this was I was trying to do them at the beginning of the show. We're just thrown in.
Cole's in such a dark place today. Don't be in a dark place because you didn't write down the Tuskegee score. It's okay.
I'll tell you what it is.
We love you.
We're getting close. We're hitting that midseason tally for the Joe Moore Award, and he's trying to get as much tape as he possibly can to truly have.
He said watch 57 games yesterday.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'll take the under on 57, but I like it.
It's like he's
I said
grinding,
over the
man.
weekend. But yeah, no, it's fine. Not worried about it.
If I wanted to, I would have played corn just to kind of needle him just to keep it going. But no, I know better.
Perfect.
Could have done that. Tell our listeners about B-Dry, Greg.
B-Dry has been serving Alabama and customers here across Birmingham for more than 60 years. They have the strongest warranty in the business. That's a life at the structure warranty, and they're the largest waterproofing company in the country. And they're the only company that's a solution that stops all 5 ways water can enter your foundation. Go and check them out right now. B-Dry is offering 12 months interest-free. That's 12 months interest-free and no payments. That's right, no payments for 12 months. So you get the job finished, and we got the holidays coming up. You have some cash on hand for some holiday fun. So call B-Dry now to get the job done right with the strongest warranty and the best price. Call 942-1976, or you can visit bdryalabama.com.
All right, get to our bad box scores of the day, plural. And as I stated, not an all-timer, but definitely one that is a little bit surprising. I'll get to that one in just a moment. First, I will tell you about the Linfield College.
They are the Cavaliers.
They're not the Cavaliers. No, they are not.
The Flying Squadron.
Nope.
Lions.
They're the Wildcats.
Oh, it was right there.
And they just snuck past the, probably not going to do this pronunciation justice, Willamette, I believe.
Yeah, they're the Warriors.
They're not. No, that's actually a good guess, but no.
The Whales.
The Metropolitans.
Great guess, by the way. No, they're the Bearcats.
Oh.
Paid to be wild in this one as the Linfield Wildcats just snuck past the Willamette Bearcats 72-0 over the weekend. In their Northwest Conference opener. 9 straight wins for Linfield over Willamette. Linfield rolled up 523 yards, 215 on the ground. They gained 5 turnovers on the day. Linebacker Blaze Halani and cornerback Peyton Anhorn each had interceptions that were returned for touchdowns.
Okay.
So to give Peyton Horn? No relation?
Anhorn. A-N-H-O-R-N.
Oh, I heard Peyton Horn.
Okay.
Get it together.
I just didn't know if there was
like
a
you know the
typo
kids'
there,
names.
maybe. I don't know.
Do better prep.
Hey, I will say this. Notable alumni from old Linfield. Mark Few.
There you go.
Yeah. Newly Pac-12.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if Linfield gets the quadruple bye in the Northwest Conference tournament, but either way, they had a nice win. Alex Rivera, quarterback for Willamette, 8 of 20, 38 yards, 3 interceptions.
That's not good at all.
Prez Juarez would come in and go 2 for 5 for 5 yards and an interception.
That's not good
It's
at
not
all.
their day.
It wasn't.
They were kind of like me on the radio today.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
4 different players scored rushing touchdowns for Linfield in the game, and Caleb Woodcock had 4 receptions, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns.
That name's a double up.
Pretty good day. And finally,
close his mic. Oh, he's in charge.
In our most surprising bad box score of the week, of the year, maybe, our chosen sons, the Soldotna Stars, went down 35-28.
No.
What?
That's why Cole's mad. That's why.
To the Lathrop.
They have to be the Wildcats.
Land Sharks.
Lions.
Malamutes.
Oh, my God. Oh, no.
Now, remember, I told you about this game last week. These two have met 4 times in the state finals the last 4 years, and they have split those 4 games.
Oh, man.
Lathrop gets the win, 35-28, and our chosen sons at Soldotna, just like Alabama, just like Auburn, going to have to go regroup and figure out a way, because they travel to North Pole next week.
No.
Not Santa.
It's going to be cold.
We might be back tomorrow.